And we're live. Des, the FCC were supposed to have a big vote today, and that's partly why you haven't been on the podcast previous to now. We were waiting until they had their vote to see basically what happened so we could discuss it. Before we do, can you tell people who are the FCC and why does any of what we're going to talk about matter to anyone?
Yeah, I was basically just using that vote as an excuse to procrastinate and not come on.
Well, that would be your style, you being a fucking dodging cunt and all.
Yeah, very much like me. But yeah, the vote was supposed to be today. The FCC, Federal Communications Commission in the States, is having a vote to repeal net neutrality from 2015, which is like the regulation that governs the internet in America and, by result, further afield as well. The aim is to reduce the regulation on the internet service providers, the people who own the lines that connect people's homes and businesses to the internet.
In Ireland, to give a tangible example of an ISP or an internet service provider. Eircom, Vodafone.
I think just Eircom.
Okay, because Eircom own the physical cables into your house.
At a time, in Ireland's case, I think Eircom would have been deemed to own the physical cables into your house. Whether or not they still do, I'm not sure, but they're required to allow any internet service provider, like Vodafone, DigiWeb, whoever the other guys are, to use those lines and provide their service to the customers.
Yeah, just with my own background, a brief stint in Eircom, they would call it wholesale line rental. So they would essentially lease out or rent their cables that they own to different internet service providers, be it DigiWeb or Vodafone or any of these crowds. But
you're right that they would lease them out, but also that they had to. So say, for example, Fran wanted to sell up a local County Meath internet service. He had every right to rent those lines for the going rate at the going price. Whereas in the States, it's not so the case. It's basically Comcast and Verizon, just the two, or maybe a third ISP in the States, claim to own those lines, despite the fact that they were built with, taxpayers' money. And they want to be able to do whatever they can with those lines, whatever they want. And in terms of the internet, there was a move in 2015 to deem the internet as an essential utility, basically like national infrastructure, just like the roads, water pipes, telephone lines, that while a company is in charge of those lines and possibly does own them, that regulation is needed to ensure that they make that infrastructure available to anybody who wants to use it.
Is that an effort to deprivatise them? Is that the right way to even phrase it? Or
if you were working in one of those companies, you could see this as some sort of nationalisation attempt.
Yes.
At the government trying to nationalise your private asset. But it's more complicated than that, in that the government built those lines, paid the majority of the money for those to be constructed, and that the service that now operates across those lines has been deemed essential to everyday life. If you're a business, you need access to the internet. You need equal access to the internet, the same as everyone else. If you're a consumer, you need equal access. If you're to be an informed consumer.
Sorry to cut across you, but when you say equal access, can you kind of expand on what the hell that is? Like?
Yeah. So it became quite popular maybe 2-3 years ago for certain businesses to pay the owner of these lines in the States, Comcast or Verizon, but let's say here in Ireland, Eircom. So someone who runs a business over the internet to pay the Eircom, let's say, extra money for their service to work faster than somebody else. So it was actually Netflix at the time that really made the issue popular, because Netflix obviously uses a lot of bandwidth and they wanted their service to appear seamless to the user. So they paid the people who owned the lines extra money to prioritise their content over other people's content.
And what's the downside for people who aren't in that loop?
Well, the downside is, say you're doing a podcast here, you're sticking it on SoundCloud. SoundCloud is, notoriously poorly managed, to say the least. They don't have the money to pay the internet service provider big bucks to streamline the delivery of their content. So someone goes onto SoundCloud, onto Fran McKeown's podcast, wants to listen to it, and it appears slow and it takes ages to load, and it gives them a crappy user experience, and basically they don't come back. And not to any fault of Fran McKeown or to any fault of SoundCloud, but because the ISP didn't get paid enough to allow their traffic to use the network the same as everyone else.
So a rival podcast, not that, I'm directly really competing with other podcasts head to head or anything like that. But look, people's attention is a limited resource. So you are, in a roundabout way, or I am, and anyone with any kind of a presence online is competing for people's attention, essentially.
And their time. Because if your content is appearing to load slower than someone else's, it's their time, which is a limited resource. So your podcast might load slower than the guy who's running a podcast hosted on a service that pays a load of money for it to arrive faster. So, and the important thing to remember is the consumer is paying to access the internet. So take Ireland as an example. A regular guy living in a house, he pays Aircom, let's say 50 quid a month for the internet. He shouldn't have to pay more to access a particular service that Aircom are rivals against, that they like or dislike, or maybe has high content or high bandwidth or something. He should be able to use the internet as and when he pleases. He's paying for it. So the fact, the suggestion that the user in the home would have to pay for their internet provision, and then the service provider like SoundCloud would also have to pay. People are paying on the double for the same provision, and it's just the middleman, the ISP, that's just going to be soaking up all this money and holding the lines to ransom. Telling companies, "Oh, pay more, or I won't speed you up," or worse, "If you don't pay more, I'll slow you down."
Yeah, and again, from my just bringing it back to my perspective and give the tangible Irish business version. If I'm competing against other people's podcasts, so let's say I'm competing for people's attention, that means I'm competing against the likes of, let's say, RTE or Sky. If Sky are paying Aircom 10 million quid a year to have their content pushed super fast, and I can't afford to pay anything, it takes an hour for someone to load a 20-minute podcast of mine and a split second for a Sky's version of my podcast.
So of course they won't spend that hour.
Oh, of course, yeah. You're gone. You're lost before you even get started. You're gone.
You're gone before you got started, and that's true for your podcast and for basically any other service that wants to operate over the internet.
Oh yeah, pick a hardware. I don't know, Chadwick's and Brooks. Chadwick's don't have as much money as Brooks, so when you go on to buy something on Chadwick's website, each page loads slowly. You put in your details. Your card details to make a payment. Yeah. It doesn't work. Everything just works seamlessly on Brooks. The big guy wins and the little guy gets fucked over. Yeah,
and the big guy wins, but has to pay a bucket load of money to a ISP.
Yeah, so it's the international equivalent of Aircom who wins and everyone else loses.
Everyone else loses. Yeah, they hold the lines to ransom and everyone else loses. But the important thing is that this is a law in the States.
I was just going to say, this is the FCC, this is America, who cares?
Well, see, that's the thing. So the example you gave there of, say, Brooks and Chadwick's in Ireland, regardless of the outcome of this vote, it's not going to affect how Brooks and Chadwick's operate on the internet in Ireland today. There's two possible things that could happen. As is often the case, laws trickle down, from the States to the EU, or sometimes from the States to the UK and then to us. That's quite unlikely because the EU already has pretty similar net neutrality laws enshrined in place already. But the second thing that could happen is that the case you described of the small guy not being able to get started, not being able to get going before he's gotten started, won't happen in the States. And if you think of basically all the services you use, they're American companies. Your email, is it Yahoo? Is it Gmail? Is it Microsoft Outlook? Is it, whoever else provides email? They're all American companies. Your music streaming service, okay, I think Spotify might be from Europe, but say Tidal or Apple Music or Google Play Music, they're all American services. Your Maps service, Apple Maps, Google Maps, your search service, every service you use on the internet, or the vast majority of them, are American services. And at one point in time, they were a startup. At one point it was a small company. So if you get rid of this law that's in place now, it will be impossible for startups in America to get going on the internet. And you think of startups in America, Facebook was a startup. People rely on Facebook. Your podcast relies on Facebook. YouTube was a startup. Snapchat was a startup. These companies, the next generation won't be able to get a foothold because they'll have to pay a bucket load of money just to have their service provided. Netflix was a startup. So the existing companies will will have to pay a lot to keep going, but there'll be no new companies coming down the road. So it will freeze the internet in 2017. The internet as we have today will be the internet forevermore.
And again, this is happening in America. The vote was supposed to be today. Who's voting? What are they voting on? And why didn't the vote go ahead?
Yeah, look, no, the vote may have gone ahead in the last few minutes or so, but I don't think it has. Of course, there's a time difference, so they're voting on Eastern time. I think it's in like New York or somewhere East Coast, so that's like 5 hours behind here. So I guess they have a few hours until the day is up, their time. They're voting on a law from 2015, which is called, it's been known as net neutrality, but it's like Title II regulation law that was passed in 2015, which changed the status of the internet in America to be a communications service, just like the telephone, so that it would be regulated just like the telephone, regulated by the FCC at a higher level than what was previous. Basically, it was classed as a utility. So the vote today is to repeal that law, to just scrap it. Not make changes, not implement a new law, scrap it, get rid of it. And put the internet provision in the States back to being an information service, which isn't deemed a utility, which is back to being more like a private company, so they can basically do what they want. And, the stuff that they can do is just, it is make or break for new and small businesses, such as speeding things up, slowing things down, the flat out blocking sites. If for example, if the big provider doesn't like the idea of you broadcasting your podcast in America, they just block it.
Yeah,
that's it. They block it. And these big providers, they're internet companies, but they also have other services that they provide. Some of them provide video streaming services. So it would be in their interest to speed up their own video streaming services and slow the fuck down everyone else's.
Yeah, so again, to use Ireland as an example, if Eircom launched Irish TV online or some sort of an equivalent of YouTube or something, or maybe an Irish equivalent of Netflix called Airnex or whatever the fuck they want to call it, or Airflix, they give everybody in Ireland essentially unlimited access, like practically free 1,000 meg downloads, and then you try and log into Netflix and it literally won't load.
Yeah.
So they just corner the market essentially.
Yeah. And, these companies are internet service providers. So the funny thing is, the services they often offer, at least in the case of America, they're worse. They offer shitty services. They can't compete with the likes of Netflix and YouTube. The services they offer are the sort of crap that's bundled on your phone when you buy it and you never open the app. You probably uninstall it straight away if you can.
Because it's not what they do.
Exactly, it's not what they do. But if they can start skewing the market by speeding up their product,
they'd be foolish not to do it.
They'd be foolish not to do it, and everyone else will be screwed. So like you're saying here in the Irish case, just as an analogy, it would be like Eircom prioritizing their service if they had a video streaming service, and then like slowing down RTE Player and TV3 Online, whatever it's called, and
popping up a little ad. Is this not loading fast enough?
Yeah,
click
exactly,
here.
that type of stuff. Yeah. So it's a big deal for basically the future of the internet in the States, and people think that doesn't really apply to them, but what I'm saying is all your internet is from the States. Think of any site you use on a daily basis: Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, SoundCloud. They're all American companies. This will apply to them. If the next generation of them can't get started in the States, they won't exist.
And is that a good thing for startups all around the world, excluding the States?
No, because you're going to want to access the American market at some point. And you're going to have to pay these ISPs to do so. So if you start up in France and you get big in France and you expand throughout Europe, you're going to want to access these guys in America at some point.
Yeah, of course.
And then you're going to have to be paying out the wazoo for this company to deliver your content.
And look, if it works in America, American is a precedent setter.
Well, look, you're right, they are, but the EU has laws already in place that don't look like they're going to follow the American laws in this particular case. So it's not like this law will necessarily trickle down to the EU or to the UK. Well, it could to the UK after Brexit and all that, but it doesn't look like it's going to trickle down to the EU because the EU has net neutrality laws in place. Some countries flaunt them quite badly. Portugal doesn't give a fuck. Portugal does whatever it wants. They have an internet service provider that just kind of it charges extra for extra things and less for less things, and it skews the market. And we have it here. We have it here. One of the big downsides of removing net neutrality is the possibility of doing what's called zero rating. Saying that a particular service doesn't use up any of your data. Like you were saying a minute ago, if Aircom launched a video streaming service, they'd let you have unlimited use of that, which basically means you're never going to use anything else. And that's
so and again, just to crystallize that for people, you have a monthly download allowance on your phone of 5 gig.
Yeah.
You watch a couple of hours of Netflix during your commute, and you're going to max that out pretty quick.
Yeah, over the course of the month, that'll be gone.
But if you get a Airflix, Aircom's version of Netflix, it's just unlimited. They don't cap you, so you can watch it endlessly.
Yeah, which means you're going to stop watching Netflix. If that was the case, you would stop watching Netflix.
At the very best case scenario for Netflix, there is you use up your allowance for Netflix, and then you go on. But realistically, you're just going to go to what's the best option.
Yeah, and it seems like the best option for you because it provides the services that currently exist, for free. It seems like it's for free. You're not using up your data allowance to access YouTube or Snapchat or whatever it happens to be. But, the next thing that's created, for example, if I know on Meteor at the minute, they do like free social media, or maybe it's Vodafone, free social media, and what they count as social media is pretty random. I'm fairly sure Reddit isn't in there. So if you're a Reddit user, it's using up your allowance. But if you're watching hours and hours of YouTube, it's not.
Hilarious.
So,
who decides kind of thing?
I'm based on what? If you're trying to start up, let's say a local County Meath social media thing or Ireland social media thing, and it's not been approved by Meteor to not count against your usage, no one's going to use it. They'll go on, stick to their Facebook and their Snapchat and Instagram if it's included, So it's really, it's saying it's the internet service providers deciding who wins and who dies on the internet. What companies.
So who, collectively, who's in favour and collectively who's opposed?
So hilarious. So look, it's a vote for ISPs, the internet service providers, just like Aircom and Vodafone here in Ireland, to have full control over their networks. So who's in favour of getting rid of this law that regulates them? Well, they are. So in America, it's Comcast, it's Verizon, it's AT&T and whoever else operates internet networks. Who's against? Like everyone else.
So, and again, just to clarify, because I'm kind of into this, you're obviously massively into it, but the internet service providers that you're talking about are basically the companies that you pay monthly to have an internet connection.
To access the internet.
Access the internet.
So in Ireland, the internet service providers will be like Meteor, O2, Vodafone, DigiWeb, Aircom, of course, maybe Virgin Media, UPC, if that's still a thing, those type of companies.
Okay, so we're supposed to be all voting in America.
No, not those guys.
Sorry.
Those guys don't vote. The vote is about them.
They're in favour is what I should have said.
They're in favour of the vote to repeal the law which regulates them. Well, obviously.
But I don't know, because if the bankers in Ireland had a choice of whether or not to be regulated, they might vote for regulation.
Exactly.
It might guide them into, doing the right thing by the people.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. A law has been put in place to regulate your industry, and now it's been proposed to remove that law. And all you guys are saying, yeah, remove that law. I swear, we'll be good, we'll do the right thing. But we don't need the regulator snooping through our business. Oh, jeez, imagine that. So those guys are in favour of the law being repealed. And who's against it? Every company that operates on the internet. Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, YouTube. Every company that operates on the internet is against, well, I'm saying every, maybe that's a bit extreme. Most of the companies that operate on the internet are against the removal of this law.
Have Netflix voiced their opinion on whether or not they want it or don't want it?
I can't say for sure. I'm not exactly certain whether they have, but I would imagine they don't want this law to be removed because they were kind of caught up in the controversy because the law wasn't in place before and they needed to speed up their content. So they paid for it to be sped up. But in an environment where nobody can pay to speed up your content, well then all of a sudden it doesn't matter anymore. Because everyone's content is on a level playing field.
Yes, and then the value of that content, how good the material is, kind of shines through.
Yeah, that the customer will be weighing up exactly that. They'll be weighing up the value of Netflix versus the value of, let's say, TV3 Online or RT Player, BBC iPlayer, not which one loaded faster.
Yes, of course.
Because which one loaded faster, if this law is removed, will be a case of who paid more. What company paid more to have their internet loaded faster? And your internet won't get better. Your like the physical cable that connects your house to the internet won't be improved. It will just be held at ransom to the companies to pay more for the same cable. So it's not like they have no incentive to improve the network, because they can just charge whatever they want for those companies to access it.
And just extrapolating from that, presumably wealthier areas, not that this isn't happening already, but presumably wealthier areas are going to get more upgrades and more, better download capabilities or streaming capabilities because they're capable of paying more.
Yeah, look, I think that's basically happened already.
Yeah, and, as I said, that kind of made sense.
And of course, it's not the consumer that will be paying more. So it doesn't actually matter if the area is wealthy or not. It's the companies. So let's say the RTE player. It's RTE who would have to pay more. Yes. So not necessarily the fancy area with all the wealthy people will be paying more.
No, true enough. And the reason I think I asked Netflix in particular, am I right in saying that Netflix hoovers up 1/3 of all the internet in the States?
Yeah, look, I mean, all the internet, with my air quotes, is kind of a poorly defined metric.
You're obviously familiar with what I'm referencing.
Yeah, Netflix and then porn use like all the internet, not just in the States but in the world. All the public internet. So much of the internet is either Netflix or porn, and that's
effectively all 90+%.
I think 90+% is genuinely porn of the public internet. I think 90+% of the bandwidth that travels across, like of the data that travels across the internet, I'm fairly sure is porn.
Hilarious. And it's something that,
is banned and is niche and is frowned upon.
And no one uses, and it's only dirty little old men in the corner,
You'd run a national survey on how many people view Pornhub. Oh, nobody. Oh God, no one in Ireland is watching Pornhub. You ask Pornhub how many, recurring daily users they have in Ireland. What's the population? Yeah, that many.
And why on that? Not to go down a big porn rabbit hole here. But,
that sounds like a good movie title.
Or a subsection.
Yeah.
Why, like when we talk about like the internet giants, you hear, Google and Facebook and all these companies, but you never hear of like Pornhub. Or is it because Pornhub don't share enough of the market? Is it split into so many different providers that none of them kind of stand out? Or
Pornhub does stand out. Pornhub is the one that like releases research data and does proper analysis and stuff, and you can see some of it comes out and does the rounds on social media quite commonly, or quite regularly. For example, there was one recently for Ireland showing the top searched porn trends from each county, and it was kind of funny, maybe it was actually done by county council, I think. So for example, is it Tipperary was split according to North and South, and County Dublin was split according to North and South, and then some of the other counties were split however they are.
And sorry, is that, forgive my ignorance, is that based on how the actual internet is provided to different areas? Like if the internet goes down across Tipperary, it'll go down across all of North or all of South?
No, it was just Pornhub did an analysis on their traffic based on where their viewers were coming from in Ireland and broke them down into like a county per county basis.
Okay.
But some of the counties are so big, take Tipperary and Dublin, they split them into halves. So there was like, a few funny ones. Maybe someone in Roscommon, or most people in Roscommon were, no offence to Roscommon people, but were searching for like bestiality porn or something.
I know what you mean.
And
yeah.
People in North Dublin wanted a certain type and South Dublin wanted the opposite type, very stereotypical type stuff. But yeah, like they account for a big majority of that section of the market, but you don't hear them as a giant, to answer your question, because ain't nobody giving their private information to Pornhub. Nobody's typing in their actual name and their date of birth and creating an account and buying a premium membership. People are sneakily doing it on the sly and hoping nobody sees them.
It's funny how we act online.
Yeah.
We've spoke about this in the podcast before. No, I don't think it with this type of thread, but we've kind of skirted what we're talking about now. I have a really good concrete example. My business is in growing high value plants under lights, so I'm very familiar with that industry, the grow shop industry. And there's a company based in Navan. Darcy Pettigrew is the guy who runs it. For the life of me, I can't think. The Grow Shop, I think. If you log on to thegrowshop.ie, you'll see lights and hydroponic systems and all these different things for growing plants indoors. 100% perfectly legal. until obviously you start growing, let's say, cannabis or something, or doing something illegal in it. But the material and everything is perfectly legal. And he has a Facebook page, and he tries to promote his business because he's an honest businessman. He has a shop in Navan, in I think Clondalkin, in Galway. It's a big concern. He employs a pile of people. It's a profitable business. It's not, under the radar or anything like that. He has a website. He has a Facebook page. I think it's all the Grow Shop. So the growshop.ie or the Grow Shop Facebook page. And I, in a past life as a freelance business developer, did a deal with him and an online publication to drive traffic towards his Facebook page and his website where you can buy his materials or whatever else. And the traffic that his website got was massive on the back of the deal that I arranged, and it seemed like a lot of traffic was being pushed towards his Facebook page. But he was very disappointed, or I should I say was very disappointed at the amount of likes his Facebook page got on the back. So we, increased the traffic to his Facebook page 20-fold and got an extra like from, it wasn't even a person, it was like a public, free the weed group or something. And again, it's because people don't want to be seen to be doing what it is that they're doing. And it's the exact same for porn. You're never going to see somebody likes Pornhub on your Facebook feed. Yeah, well, you do sometimes, but you're
well, but
again, if you do it sometimes,
it's the one guy who just doesn't give a fuck.
Or doesn't understand that
his mother is reading this and his employer and every other cunt in the world.
Yeah, no, it's mad, the fakeness of the online world
persona,
in general. Before I forget, you had a bit of a bone to pick, not to put words in your mouth, with Simon Andruchetti, one of the previous guests. He had mentioned that he doesn't allow his daughter on Facebook, but he did allow her on, I think he said, Snapchat and Instagram.
Yeah.
And you just couldn't wrap your head around that.
Yeah,
basically.
like when you told me that, I read the description online, and he's like his work is in social media or something. Is that true?
Yeah, I can't remember his actual job title, but he's been working in digital since
media, right?
Digital media was a thing, like,
and has kids and
teenage daughter, she, I think 14, 15-ish.
And you were telling me, now this maybe is or isn't in the episode, but you were telling me that he's a big social media head and has young daughters or kids or whatever, and regulates their use of the internet and social media. And you told me that he lets them use some but not others, and the ones you said he let them use was so baffling to me. It was specifically Snapchat and Instagram, and I was like, wow, that's crazy, because for one, Snapchat, the content disappears. All the videos, all the photos and the text all disappear once you've sent them or a little bit of time has passed. So as a parent, in terms of keeping tabs on your kids, that's crazy difficult to do, I imagine, unless he has some sort of sneaky clone of his kid's Snapchat app, which might be a bit strange.
Yeah, I'm not overly familiar with Snapchat. I don't use it, so I'm going to sound like such a fucking old man saying this, but you send a message or a photo or whatever it might be, and then it automatically deletes after a few seconds. Is there parental controls here that Simon's using? Or?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. There's obviously apps for everything. So maybe he has a third-party app, or maybe he's really into these things and has jimmied something together himself. But no, not that I'm aware of. I don't know of any parental control that would be forwarding the messages or storing them or anything like that. Yeah, no, basically not. And you said using Instagram, but specifically not Facebook. Instagram is owned by Facebook, so whatever you don't want them to see on Facebook, they're seeing it on Instagram, and whatever you don't want Facebook to see of them, Facebook is seeing anyway through Instagram.
Well, I think, and I hope I'm not doing Simon a disservice by saying this, but I think he said that Facebook push more at you than Instagram does, maybe, if that makes sense. Or does that make sense, should I say it to you?
Well, I mean, both platforms have ads, if that's what you mean by push stuff at
No,
you.
he mentioned that the ads, he mentioned I think he said that there was a number, when you go onto Instagram, the third thing, the 8th thing, and the 12th thing, the some ratio or something is always an ad. And
that's higher on Facebook or something?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what. I'm not sure what it was.
I said this to you at the time. Instagram is the sexy one. Facebook is the one that your mum is on, and your school is on, and your football team is on, and you use Facebook to arrange events, in the local area and stuff like that, and all the other regular stuff. But Instagram is photos.
Well, it's a step up from kind of Pinterest, isn't it? It's like a photo sharing
Yeah,
app. Like.
yeah, and of course there's some little words here and there, and people of course message each other on Instagram. Maybe it's just me being I don't use Instagram, but anytime I've ever heard of Instagram is about some sexy girls' photos or some fitness models' photos, and a load of lads like delighted to be looking at these. I don't see why I would be steering a teenage child, if it was me, towards Instagram. But like if he's the guy who's working in that, I'm sure he or somebody else knows a lot more about this than I do.
Yeah, no, but I'd be keen to just hear his like the man isn't here unfortunately, but I mean if he was, I'm sure he would have a ready retort.
Of course, yeah, and I'd love to hear it as well. It's just really when you told me, you actually specifically said he reviews his kid's phone or something.
Yeah, no, he would say it as part of being a good parent. He checks her phone daily or bi-daily at the least.
Look, if you're having a young kid with a phone and the internet on it, I think that's totally fair enough, to be honest.
Oh yeah, no, 100%,
if I was
100%.
Whatever age you're talking about, teenager, and one of my parents was like, we're getting you a phone and we're paying for your internet and whatever, but we want to look at it, I'd be like, you know what, that's kind of fair enough. I mightn't have accepted it as a teenager, but it's fair enough.
No, absolutely.
Which is why I find it so hard to get his Snapchat thing, because there's nothing to check. It's all deleted.
Yeah, hilarious. And again, because I'm not on Snapchat, I wouldn't have had the wherewithal to even ask him that, you know. But in keeping with things that people use and don't, another good friend of mine was delighted to hear what Simon had said about WhatsApp. Basically what he was saying was that your text messages via WhatsApp what Simon was saying was your text messages via WhatsApp are read essentially. Maybe not on an individual level, but on a kind of a meta level, and that targeted advertising is driven towards you. I think the example that I used at the time was a friend of mine had bought a pair of shoes online, and the only reason that he bought them online was because he happened to see an ad. And I was saying, well, that ad was more than likely purposefully put in front of you, possibly because his ma had texted him and asked, what are you doing today? And he said, I have to go and buy shoes. And the Google gods saw buy shoes and started pumping shoe ads at him. Now, this other friend of mine was delighted to hear all that because he doesn't use WhatsApp and has urged me not to use WhatsApp. And
okay, yeah, fair enough.
As far as I can tell, has urged everyone that he meets in the street not to use WhatsApp.
Specifically WhatsApp alone or what?
No, well, the same guy, I don't even know if it's fair to say he deleted his Facebook account because I don't think he mightn't have ever had one. Okay. Put it this way, if he did ever have one, he certainly deleted it since and has urged me, I'm sure in the past, to delete mine. But all the while we would text in, it's gas, I'm not even sure the name, SMS?
Yeah,
is that what
regular old
messages. Black and white text messages?
Yeah, that, use up your 50 text message allowance and, you need
all that jazz.
Reception and pay for them, yeah.
But I had mentioned that to you, and you had asked, what is he texting, what is he communicating with? And when I said SMS, you literally just laughed out loud.
Yeah, maybe there's something I'm missing, but there's not. So WhatsApp, specifically WhatsApp, and some other services, but I'm not going to name other ones, but just specifically WhatsApp is encrypted end to end. Nobody is reading it. WhatsApp can't read it. Facebook that owns WhatsApp can't read it. Companies such as Google that have nothing got to do with WhatsApp can't read it. The only person who can read it is the recipient, and the only time it can be read is when it has arrived on their phone.
So in transit, it can't?
No, end to end. When it leaves your phone, when it's travelling through, the Wi-Fi or the airwaves, or if you're somehow plugged in using like an Ethernet port over the internet, can't be read. It arrives at WhatsApp HQ, on their servers, can't be read, gets sent from there, still can't be read, boom, it lands on the recipient's phone, but it's unlocked, can be read.
By anyone or just the person reading it?
Well, if there's someone standing nearby, obviously they can read it.
Looking over your shoulder.
Yeah,
but what I mean is as it's been sent, as it's been received, it's end-to-end encrypted. But I mean, if the letters are on your screen, does that not mean that it's visible in some sense to someone else?
Once it has appeared on your screen, it's been unencrypted. In fact, once it's arrived to your phone, to the WhatsApp app, it's being unencrypted.
And does that not counter the point of encrypting it in the first place?
No, because the vast majority of data that's stolen through attacks are done in transit, as you put it, what's called a man-in-the-middle attack. Someone will jack your Wi-Fi, or you'll be using shitty, bus air and Wi-Fi on the bus, and there'll be malware installed on it. Or someone back to the ISP, someone at the ISP will want to snoop on what you guys are doing, and they'll read it there, but it's encrypted throughout that process. So the only time it's readable is when you press send from your phone and when it receives on the other phone.
And remotely then, like in the world of everything being connected, like let's say that the WhatsApp messages that I have on my phone now, in my pocket.
Yeah.
How do I know that some, Nigerian scam artist isn't reading them? If they've been
now that they've been unencrypted?
Yeah.
Right now, I guess you don't know. At the moment they're received, if your phone is locked, the phone is encrypted, so you can't access it from that point.
And when you say locked, you mean it
locked
like
with
a swipe?
pin? No, not with a swipe. The swipe isn't sufficient to create the encryption necessary, at least on Android phones.
Okay, so if you have to swipe your finger up, down, left, right, in and out, upside down,
no, that's no
matter.
good. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, on like the latest version of Android, that's not sufficient for the encryption to work. You need either like a pin, like a numerical, like 4-digit, 7777. I nearly said my actual pin there. Yeah, so like a numerical pin, or like a password, typed out a big long password or something, or your fingerprint on some phones, is good enough to get the encryption to kick in, but not just a little swipe or some sort of, design with the swipe, the little pattern swipes. No, that stuff's not good enough. That's just to stop your phone, from the guy sitting beside you, or from unlocking in your pocket. That's not good enough for the Nigerian scammer, or the scammer from God knows where.
I would have assumed that anyway, that the swipe thing and the pin thing was for just, your mates cut and send your missus a fucking bitchy message or something like.
Yeah.
But I never would have thought that putting a key lock on it in some way encrypted my phone.
Well,
and by a key lock, I mean the pin that you're talking about.
The pin or the password or your fingerprint. Some phones have encryption turned on by default, but they require such a security measure to activate the encryption. Or other phones, you need to turn the encryption on yourself in like the security settings. Like go to settings, go to security, type and find the encrypt my phone please section. Or God forbid, Google it. How to encrypt my phone. Or, on a lot of phones, I don't know if you have, I think you do have a kind of fancy Samsung phone. There's kind of like a dual encryption option where you can, encrypt the contents of the phone, which is sort of regular everyday encryption, and then like encrypt a separate section of the hardware so that even during power on mode, I think it is, like just as the phone is coming on, it's still encrypted. The only thing that isn't encrypted is just the data to make the little nice logo pop up and the little chime that happens. But everything else is encrypted because that was a point of weakness in the past.
Okay, I'm speaking of points of weakness. Again, maybe this is just the skeptic in me coming out. But when you say it's encrypted, WhatsApp have it encrypted or Facebook have it encrypted because Facebook own WhatsApp. The skeptic in me is saying, yeah, right, Des. They can't read what they've encrypted. Don't be ridiculous, basically.
Yeah.
Of course they can.
They actually can't. Well, nothing on Facebook is encrypted as far as I'm aware. So Facebook flat out reading everything. That's their whole, business agenda. Provide a service, gather information, sell ads. They're trying to emulate the whole Google thing, and they're doing it quite well. Whereas WhatsApp is encrypted using like standard encryption protocols. Like they haven't created this encryption. They haven't, I guess they have implemented it, but in order to implement it or to use it, you need to use it the right way. It's like if you go and buy a tool from the tool shop. You haven't made this tool yourself. You just bring it home, and in order for it to work, it needs to be used the right way.
So what else? If this is an off-the-shelf encryption, that makes me more likely to think that it's hackable, say.
Yeah.
If it, I'd nearly feel safer if they could access it if they wanted it. At least it was bespoke and it wasn't just off the shelf.
Yeah, well, it's off the shelf, but whose shelf is it off? It's off, I think, the National Information and Standards Technology like board or whatever they are. It's like an association, a fairly sure an American association that devised these encryption standards. So, all banking systems in the world use these very same encryption standards. Like all military systems in the world use these encryption standards. Like air traffic control uses the same. It's the same standard. You know, there are two variations, and either they're all using the same one or they're using one of the two. So, is it hackable? Like, I guess, yeah. In theory, yeah, of course. And are cunts out there hacking it? Probably, you know, trying. NSA and people like that, flat out trying to do that. Or maybe...
But they're hacking a massive fucking bank, not your tech messages.
Yeah, they could be hacking, let's say, you know, if it's a government attack, they could be hacking an enemy government. But they're not letting this go public and hacking, you know, Simon's WhatsApp, or what's the guy's name? The WhatsApp, your friend's WhatsApp.
Yeah,
you know, because if they do that and WhatsApp finds out, then the jig is up. They're no longer able to hack the government, the enemy government on the sly. You know, so they're keeping their cards close to their hand. If they've hacked it, which, you know, I guess they possibly could have, they don't want anyone to find out about that.
Yeah, no, of course. Sorry, again, we went down another fucking WhatsApp, Instagram, Snapchat.
I feel like you're going to have listeners here who know more than I do about these things, and he's talking shite, that's a load of crap, you know, I hacked that WhatsApp last weekend on my weekend
I don't know, I think we're talking at a relatively high level for most people. Like, the only reason that I'm even able to articulate the questions that I'm asking you is because we've spoken about this at length, you know, over the years, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I've worked in telecoms, and I have I'm just a big nerd generally. I'm into all this stuff.
Yeah.
And because of the type of business that I have and the type of life that I have the extra hour or two in the day to kind of read up on this kind of stuff and watch the odd documentary or whatever. And I to a degree, without sounding too fucking patronising about it, I feel sorry for people who don't, because they're the real fucking victims. Like, do you know that kind of way?
Well, they are and they aren't. You know, look, worst case scenario, WhatsApp is reading your texts. You know, Google is reading your texts. You know, Facebook is reading your texts. Google is reading your emails. Motorola or whoever makes your phone is reading everything that's on there. So, okay, you just added another guy to the list, and is that such a big deal? Yeah, but no more than each of the other items in isolation.
But Des, when I opened up my phone or set up my Gmail account, it said that, you know, what's the term they use?
Do you accept?
No, but they have, it's not ionized, it's something
anonymized.
Data. It's anonymized data, so it's nothing that can be targeted at me. This is general stuff. They can only pull the stats for Ireland. They can't pull the stats for me.
This is what you said a minute ago. This is what they've implemented. You know, in terms of if it's, you know, the operating system on your phone or the particular messaging app or something, they've implemented a so-called anonymization procedure to anonymize the data that they're pulling from your device. You know, quote unquote anonymize the data. You know, it's not anonymized. Well, I guess it is anonymized, and then they quickly do the opposite and be like, oh, sweet, Fran McKeown is looking to buy a pair of jeans.
But again, you're in this world, I'm in this world, to the people who aren't, like, and that's again, this kind of harks back to what I said just 2 seconds ago. There are people who will click OK to the terms and conditions because they don't have, you know, 2 weeks to read it stuff, or 5 years to do a degree course to understand it. They just click OK, and they feel safe that, you know, Google wouldn't do anything nefarious, because Google has a kind of a relatively good image, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, there's a phrase kind of amongst people who are into technology that when it comes to the internet and when a service is free, you're not the customer, you're the product. And I think that's something to bear in mind whenever you're availing of a free service on the internet. You're not the customer, you're the product. So in Google's case, Google provides you, let's say, with Gmail. I use Gmail, it's my email provider. They have read every email that I've ever sent in, you know, since I was 15. So I'm the product. My data that they collect and the information they know about me, that's the product that Google sells for money to advertising companies or to themselves to sell me ads. Now, I'm not a chump. I use an ad blocker, and I'm basically tight as fuck, so I don't usually buy things anyway. So look, they can push all the ads on me they want.
Yeah, you're not their target market.
No, well, I am, but it's going to be a tough cookie to crack, you know. Give me a load of money and then target ads at me. Yeah, I'll spend that money on a pair of nice sweet jeans or something, but, you know, in the meantime, probably not. But yeah, so like saying Google would never do these things, Google flat out doing these things all the time. And of course they tell you, you know, that's Google's an advertising company. Every product they make is to forward their advertising arm. You know, they make an operating system for a phone so that they can see everything that's on your phone. They make an operating system for a computer so they can see everything that's on your computer. They make a browser, and all of this stuff is freely available. You know, they make a browser, the Google Chrome browser, so that they can see everything that you browse. Even if you didn't buy their computer or you didn't buy their phone, hopefully you'll use our browser. And even if you're not using their browser, they've been found to be sneakily stealing information from other browsers, from Safari and from Firefox on other devices. So long as their browser was installed, or even I think you visited their website, they were stealing all the information in the background. They got caught rapid by the European antitrust, whoever they are.
And they got fined, didn't
Yeah,
they?
like a huge big fine, but you know, no thing for them to pay. You know, it was like 600 million, and they were like grand paid. Oh well, of course they appealed it because, you know, standard procedure to appeal everything. But yeah, a big fine, but not by their standards. You know, worth it. That's kind of running costs. You know, this big fine.
It's built in. It's in the business plan.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. When we get caught, we'll appeal it. When we fail the appeal, we'll pay the fine.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and we'll have learned so much stuff about all of our customers in the background. So, you know, keep that in mind. When shit's free on the internet, you're not the customer, you're the product.
And when you're paying, is it any different?
Yeah. Well, in some cases it is. There are some companies that they don't either want to or have the ability to make any money off your data. So they want to sell you a product for money, and then that's it. They're not collecting your data, they're not harvesting anything. Some of them, I'm not saying that's, you know, a good measuring stick to judge something by. If you're paying for it, then it must be good. Of course, Google also offer paid services. You know, the big famous one in terms of privacy and price is Apple. You know, you pay a premium for an Apple device, they're not scraping all your data. I think they are tracking your location. I think that was something that came out recently. But, I mean, every cunt is tracking your location left, right and centre. But aside from that, I'm fairly sure you pay the premium. That's how they make money. They make money by selling, you know, so-called premium hardware at a certainly premium price. You know, they don't make money from ads. Apple. Do Apple even sell ads? Who knows? I don't think so.
I don't have an iPhone, but I would have thought that if I've had iPhones in the past with different jobs that I've had, they've kind of been provided for me by the employer. Do you not get ads on an iPhone?
I'm sure you do, of course, but they're probably not served by Apple.
But I mean, if Apple aren't getting paid for it, would they not, you know, install an ad blocker of their own to save you the bother and use that as a selling point? You know, I'd nearly buy an iPhone, as much as I dislike Apple. I'd nearly buy an iPhone if it came with a...
Well, I'm pretty sure your phone has an ad blocker built
Oh no,
in.
if it does, I'm not sure if it came pre-built in, but I definitely have installed one since.
Yeah.
But
I think their selling point, you know, the vast portion of the Apple market isn't people reading the tech specs. You know, it's a nice piece of hardware.
It's the new iPhone.
Yeah, or, you know, I'm not saying they're not good, but people are buying them regardless. You know, the queues around the door from the Apple store and the shops that are selling their products aren't because the specs are through the roof. You know, the specs are basically pretty standard. But like you said, it's the new iPhone. It's a cool product that, you know, certain people want, and they're going to buy it hand over fist as quick as they can. So, you know, I don't think they really need to push things like ad blockers. And look, a lot of services rely on ads to run their sites and stuff like that. So, you know, to flat out block them all on the browser might be a bit of a dick move.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And on the hardware thing, like it amazes me. Herself, she has always, as long as I've been with her, the best part of 10 years, has always had an iPhone. But that's by default because it comes with work and whatever else. So as soon as she's due for an upgrade, she gets the new one. So she's had, you know, 1 through to 6
10.
or 7 or whatever the fuck we're on now. She's had them all. And because I'm into tech and into all that, not so much now as I was, I suppose, when I was younger, but I would have always been keen to get the latest and the new one. And like I might have went, you know, Samsung Galaxy 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, but you know, I'm staying relatively up to speed. So there's been always 2 phones with us when we're out and about with the young lad or whatever. And when it comes to take a photo, like every so often she'll go to take it, by not thinking she'll try and use her own phone and then just go, oh look, it's not even worth it. And over the course of that 10-year period, whatever phone that I had was always better than her phone. And the camera on a phone presumably is a massive selling point for anyone. I mean, it's as much a camera these days as it is a phone.
Yeah, for sure. That interests me because you're saying, you know, you've been together for 10 years and she presumably had the basically the first iPhone then, I guess, at that point. 10 years ago would have been the first iPhone, or the second, at the latest. And at that time, those cameras were far better than the competition. I remember a friend of mine, we were in college in like maybe first year, he had an iPhone, I had like, an old dumb phone, a brick phone, didn't have any camera, and I was just amazed at the quality of his photos because they were comparable to the real thing. They weren't just some shitty photo that, you've been used to seeing on the back of your iPod or something like that. It was a good photo. But the situation has flipped and then flopped again. I feel like Apple lost it once all the other manufacturers sort of started doing stuff. And then recently they've came back with a nice camera the last few years.
I know what you mean.
But yeah, look, you say that cameras are a selling point. People just buy what they're given, They go into the shop. I was in the shop getting a SIM card in one of the network stores in town. And a woman came in and specifically asked for a model of phone. She knew the make and model. She said, I want I can't remember exactly what it was, but let's say it was the Samsung Galaxy S7. I want the S7, a €600 phone. She left with like the J5, a €200 phone, because I guess the person behind the desk had an agenda to sell the J5, or they had no S7s left, or whatever. But the conversation that took place was just so bizarre. Woman comes in, I want X. The staff member was like, oh, okay, here's why. Grand, bought. People, in terms of that stuff, they say they care about, a nice camera. They buy the thing that's on the shelf when they walk into the shop. And the same, if you're not in the loop and you're not like, you don't know what it is, you'll just buy whatever the fucking guy tells you to buy.
Yeah, and the person that's selling it, like, the better trained they are, the less influence you have on your own fucking decision making process.
Yeah, he was selling you a J5 before you even knew a J5 existed.
Of course, yeah.
And then you go home saying, yeah, got a bargain. I went in for the S7, spent £200, delighted. And you're like, yeah, it's okay. It's not the thing you thought it was, but you didn't know what that thing was, so who cares?
No,
you're happy with yourself.
Little did you know that in the little room behind the desk that you stood at was a leaderboard on the wall with little stars.
Who can sell the most
name.
J5s?
Exactly. Yeah, first to 5.
Yeah.
Goes home.
Yeah. And 6 pallets of J5s, dripping wet. Just they're desperate to get these things out the door.
Yeah, it's gas. Was actually out for a meal there recently, and the waiter was great. And see, this is the weird thing. People want to be sold to, and I know this because my background is in sales.
Yeah.
And when I was working, this is going fucking back 10 plus years ago, but I worked in a shop called Harvey Norman in Navan, and we sold like washing machines and dishwashers.
Is there a Harvey Norman in
Navan?
Navan?
Not Harvey Norman. Fuck. Hardy Electrical, that's what it was.
Right.
Old school mom and pop shops, long gone by the wayside. They sold what are called white goods, so washing machines, fridge, freezers, and all that kind of crack. But to their credit, they sent me on a very cheap sales course thing. But I'll never forget what the guy said to me. And he left a real lasting impression on me. He said that the person that walks into the shop, anyone, it doesn't matter who they are, the person walking into the shop wants to spend their money.
Yes,
it's
that's
why they're fucking there.
Yeah. They
so
don't know what they want to sell it on.
If they leave and they haven't spent their money, that's fucking your fault. Mm-hmm. They came in, they were already sold. Do you know that kind of way? Like you're not out pulling them in off the street.
Yeah, they've walked into your shop.
Literally, like.
Confirm to them, that thing you want, we don't have it, but here's something else, buy this, it's the exact same, please. Like with the phone. A woman comes in looking for something, we tell them this one is better, and it's half the price. Why is it half the price? Because we have 1,000 of them we need to ship.
Yeah, no, of course. And again, getting back to the meal story, went in, and again, people like being sold to. You're out for a meal, you want to, you're there obviously to enjoy it, you're there to get all the fucking trimmings and whatever else. You'd never admit that you're there to be sold to, say.
You think you know what you want.
Of course, but the waiter said, he came around to ask you, all right, blah, blah, blah. And even that, coming over and being asked you're all right, and then he goes off, and then he comes back and asks, are you ready to order? And he goes off and he comes back. Like, anyone who's worked in a restaurant knows that whatever way they come up to you, that's how they're told by their employer to approach you. And different restaurants have different styles, and even down to, like, I've spoken before about all the little nuances that are in shopping centres, or not shopping centres, let's say supermarkets, all the little tricks. You think you walk around and by yourself, do you fuck? You're led around the place by a carrot. Like they dictate where you go, and all the while you think, you just have your own little route. Little do you know, everyone uses the same fucking route. But Yeah, so here's an interesting one on the restaurant one. Restaurants will put good-looking couples in focal points of the restaurant.
Oh, right.
So if you
That
walk...
must be why I'm always putting the focal points.
It must be that, there you go.
Yeah.
But you get all dolled up, you and your missus, you're going out for an anniversary meal, you know, she's the fucking tan done, and you've your shiny shoes on, and, you know, the hair is gelled, and you're both looking you're as well as you can look. You're being put where everyone can see you. You walk in, you know, when you're just finished work and you're covered in paint and you're fucking, you know, sweating and, you know, you're
Scruffy as shite.
Scruffy as shite, basically, yeah. You're running into the fucking back corner.
Yeah.
And for the most part, that's kind of what you want a little bit too. Like,
Yeah.
you're not getting all dolled up so you feel good. You're getting all dolled up, you know, to be seen and to feel good. But again, sorry, going back to my own fucking story, that I keep interrupting myself here. The waiter came over and asked us, did we want a drink? And no, I was driving, they were driving, she was driving, he was driving, and he motioned to my mum, you know, would you like a drink? And she was like, and he goes, you'll have an old sneaky drink, won't you? You'll have an old sneaky one. Oh, you'd love a sneaky little drink, especially when no one else is drinking. She's like, oh, would you like a glass of red? Nice glass of red. And she kind of went, oh, fuck you, yeah, go on, I'll have one. And he walked off, and she mentioned it herself, because she kind of copped that she'd been sold to. And she said, I think she said, I hope I'm not misquoting her here, but she said something along the lines of, I should have said no with a principle, because
Just to spite him.
not even just to spite him, but just, you know, I don't appreciate being kind of sold to. Now, she didn't, and nobody does, and that's why. And again, I've never worked in a restaurant environment, but I know for a fact that the waiting staff have targets, like the guy in the phone shop has targets. How many desserts you sell, how many glasses of wine you sell, and, you know, you win at the end of the night, you get a higher percentage of the tips, or you get a fucking, I don't know, an hour off early, or you don't have to do the dishes, or whatever the fuck is the reward, like. But
Cheers for the invite. I know you guys are going out for dinner now. Not inviting me along. Must have gotten lost in the post.
I'm going to try and dig us out of that other rabbit hole that we both went down, maybe me more so than you. The FCC, the vote, didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? Did we mention that already?
I don't know.
I don't think we did. Why didn't it happen? Actually, before you say that, can you tell people what... There's been a lot of controversy over this, has there? It was supposed to happen,
Jesus
the naming of it.
Christ. Oh, sure, gee, like, where to start? Yeah. It's kind of common procedure in the States to name, you know, bills and laws as stuff that you can't possibly argue against, so that no matter what it is, when someone comes up against it, it sounds bad. So the original law that's been in place now since 2015 was called the Internet Freedom Law, something like that. Internet Freedom Act, whichever way it works, like it's an act first, I guess, or a bill. The Internet Freedom Act, you know, and nobody could be seen to be against the Internet Freedom Act. What, you don't want freedom
yeah.
on the internet? In America?
What,
Get
are you
out.
some sort of commie?
Yeah. So, you know, it was the Internet Freedom Act. Maybe I'm probably misquoting that, but it's something, you know, along those lines. And this one is the real Internet Freedom Act. This is the, you know, Restoring Internet Justice Act. This one is actually called the Restoring Internet Freedom Act. So I guess the previous one must have been, you know, the Internet Policy, the good Internet Act, you know.
Yes. It's like the pro-life.
Pro-life.
You're against, you're not pro-life?
Yeah, I remember the first time being asked, was I pro-life or pro-choice? And I'd never heard that like sort of phrase before, as opposed to, you know, are you in favour or against abortion? And I was like, oh, geez, I'm obviously pro-life, but I like choices as well, so I must be both. I must be pro-life and pro-choice. And then it was the same friend, actually, with the fancy iPhone at the time, who said to me, no, Des, you're not both. You know, pro-life is this and pro-choice is that. I was like, oh, well then I'm definitely not both. You know, I'm absolutely one. And I was like, the cheek of them to name their categories like that. Well, it's kind of fair enough. You know, it forces you to go down, you know, one over the other, because you can't be seen to be not, you know, either pro-life or pro-choice.
No, of course, and this isn't a new thing. Like, I mean, the marijuana stamp, was it the Marijuana Stamp Act that was passed in the States in the, I don't know, was it the 50s or 60s, that essentially resulted in cannabis being illegal worldwide, was called the Marijuana Stamp Act, or the Marijuana Something Act. Because at the time in America, marijuana, which was the Mexican word for cannabis, was associated with At the time, they would have been called Negroes and Mexicans and jazz players. Strangely, were musicians.
Bad things,
circus
basically.
people. Yeah, exactly. Of course. So they wanted to ban something that was deemed as bad.
Yeah.
If cannabis at the time was a crop that was enjoyed by everyone for its fibre and everything else, you wouldn't have been able to pass banning cannabis.
The Crop Act.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is nothing new, but anyway.
But
sorry,
even like we were saying before, the Patriot Act. Oh, geez, yeah, I'm big patriot. I'm totally in favour of that. Nice one. Sign your name here.
Yeah.
Mr. President. I was elected to lead, not to read. But anyway, so this is the so-called Restoring Internet Freedom Act or Bill, whatever the fuck it's called. And there was like a period of comment, I think they called it, where citizens of America were allowed to post their comments on a website so that the regulator that's charged with having their best interest could look through the comments and see, what do people want? And I guess on the internet people are quite vocal when they're passionate about things, so there was a lot of people saying that they wanted to keep the existing law. And what ended up happening was that thousands of fraudulent comments were made using disposable email addresses and automated systems, using real American people's details, saying that get rid of this law is bad, and fake comments, but that were automated. Now, it's not known by who, but obviously by people who want the law to be repealed,
yes,
to be done away with. That period then closed, and there was a big whole argument about that. Different governors and regulators saying, this was a load of shite, half those comments were fake, we need to investigate them. And
you've based your decision on something that was just made up by...
Yeah, but sure, the decision was made, this kind of falls on party lines. So the decision was made, last year when a Republican president was elected. So in terms of this comment period, that was like just a showpiece. We'll ask the people what they want so that we can go ahead with our decision.
Yes,
it's not to base it. We had our decision already. The vote was scheduled. But yeah, I was trying to see earlier if the vote was going ahead, and there was like a big security evacuation of the building.
This is literally just in the last couple of hours.
Yeah, just this evening here. Obviously, Irish time in the States, East Coast is 5 hours behind, so I guess it's maybe afternoon there for them. But yeah, for us in the last hour or so, I was watching. It was actually live stream, so I was trying to see, what way the vote's going to go. And there was some big security event. Big cop guys come in, and everyone had to evacuate. And I don't know. I didn't actually see if they came back to finish the vote. So the vote could be over, could be postponed. I hope there was no big, danger or nothing came of this evacuation. But be interesting to see how it goes. There was a huge push by a lot of companies to try and either cancel it outright or just postpone it, postpone the vote altogether. Funnily enough, I think I was telling you this before. They scheduled the vote on Thanksgiving. Yeah, in the States.
When no one was paying attention.
When the only time, I'm fairly sure it's one of the very few guaranteed, national holidays in the States where every fucker is off work and is supposed to be at home, having a turkey with their family or whatever, and nobody was listening. And this is so typical, they do these things, New Year's Eve or Christmas Day or Thanksgiving or something like that.
Sorry, but why would they bother? I mean, if they're so brazen in how they go about pushing these things through, like you were saying, like a Republican got elected, so the decision was made. The getting people to vote was smoke and mirrors. And then on top of that, they fucking had a load of fake comments to...
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they just do it on the day when everyone's looking and just go, we vote, it's a democracy, what about it?
Yeah, well, because people are, I suppose, going on with something you've said before, people are very easily led. So if it's on a day where everyone is listening and someone kicks up a fuss, that might catch on. So if they didn't do it on Thanksgiving Day, let's say they did it on Cyber Monday, where every fucker is on the internet, the Monday following Thanksgiving. If they scheduled the vote that day, people would probably see, some sort of online reaction to this thing, and it might gain momentum to go one way or the other.
I know what you mean.
Whereas if you do it on Thanksgiving, you schedule the vote on Thanksgiving, it's under the radar. Nobody knows about it, nobody's listening about it, the vote will come and go without people having realised and be like, that thing, fuck, right, okay, whatever.
Yeah, Trump has had some mad tweet since and everyone's forgotten about it.
Of course, or something that, something else has happened. You've gone back to work the next day or something and business as usual. Something happened yesterday. Oh yeah, I had a big Thanksgiving dinner with my family.
So if it's a yes or no vote, so...
Well, it is a yes or no vote, but as far as I'm aware, there are 5 commissioners. So it's a vote from 5 people, and 3 of them are Republicans. So again, it's a typical thing. It's like party lines. The Republicans want to repeal the law. The Democrats don't want to. So, you know, if the vote goes ahead, which maybe it has already, I assume it's going to be a 3-2 vote to repeal it, like along party lines.
Right, and the outcome then, either way, like what's going to happen? Like, give me a kind of typical scenario of what will happen if it goes one way or the other, and the fallout.
Part of the reason for wanting to get rid of the existing law is that it does the job that I think people want, but it doesn't, that a lot of people want, or maybe most people want, but it doesn't do it well. It uses old legislation, the legislation that was used for telephones and, you know, water pipes, and puts the internet into that category. So if it stays, there'll probably be a push to change it at some point, to update it, to get rid of it and replace it with something new or better that's more, you know, tailored to the modern day, basically a more up-to-date law. And if it's gotten rid of, there'll be no push to, well, I guess other people will want the law to come back, but that kind of isn't how it works. You know, if it's gotten rid of the law that exists, you know, I guess as soon as it's implemented, the companies have free reign, the internet service providers have free reign to jack the prices, start setting prices for, you know, times of the day to access their network. And if you have high bandwidth content, yeah, you need to pay us extra. And yeah, if you have a service that, all the stuff I said before, if you have a service that competes with our service, oh, sure, we're not letting that go through the internet cables, you know. So could be a huge big deal. It might take a little while, you know, a few months to really come into effect, and then maybe a couple of months after that for people to start noticing, oh, my Netflix doesn't work. Or I guess the big companies will just pay. They'll kind of have no other option. So from that point forward, the internet will be forever in the States as it is now, and no new internet-based company will be able to easily get a foothold.
I wouldn't have known about any of this, only for you. And
Aren't I great?
Huh?
Aren't I great?
You are. You're fantastic, Des. You're
Cheers.
fantastic. But therein lies the problem. I mean, I haven't heard any of my friends. Like, I don't follow the Irish news, say.
Oh, well, it's been all over the Irish news.
Has it?
It hasn't. It's fuck.
Hilarious, because I was going, like, the point I was going to make is I don't watch the news, so maybe it is on it. But if it is, no one I know is fucking talking about it. But as you say, is it fuck?
Look, it would probably fall into the category of tech news. It's not exactly well, I suppose that's the argument, that it's not tech news. When it comes to the internet, every fucking thing is on the internet. But we've lost the Tànaiste there, you know, last week, and, you know, I guess in terms of Irish news, there's other stuff. Maybe this falls in the little section after the weather but before the sports, or, you know, something like that. It hasn't at all been on the Irish news. I do subject myself to Irish news in the car.
But, like, is there not... Fuck, I'm trying to make up a title here. Is there not, you know, an Irish Times or independent tech journalist who's screaming this from the fucking rafters, saying, everybody wake up and look at what's happening?
I'm sure there is, and it's buried in the tech section, you know, after the weather at the back of the Irish Times.
I know what you mean.
You know,
yeah.
It's a big deal. I guess it will be a big deal, depending on the outcome of the vote, you know, going forward into the future. But look, there's other shit in the Irish news. You know, all that crap about those cunts standing down, and you know my opinion on Irish politicians and some of the people in charge. You know,
I do.
Yeah,
the ear of everyone listening has just pricked slightly.
Right? Yeah. I know. I'm a big fan. More of the same.
Well, what would you like to see changed? Like, realistically now, don't get into your nihilistic burn it all down and start from scratch
I'd never say
mode.
such a thing. Yeah. Fuck, Jesus. Where to start? Look, good that they got rid of the old Tànaiste on account of that whole email thing. I was telling you about that.
You were that bit I do know, but again,
brilliant.
You know, amuse me.
You know, Tànaiste. I'm quoting this straight from the radio. So brilliant, such a great sketch. Tànaiste. Did you see the emails we sent you? Oh, God, no, I didn't see or hear or have anything to do with any such emails. Oh, no, there was a voucher for Tesco. Oh, yeah, I saw that email, saw those emails. And that's basically the equivalent of what happened. And, you know, look, it was a big email scandal. I think it was going back to the same Garda whistleblower thing that's been going on for so long now. But
This is the breathalyzer thing, is it? Or
no, a different one.
Again, I'm so out of the fucking loop. It's unreal. Like.
Yeah, look, some guard in the guards fucking blew his whistle or whatever the whistleblowers do, and people weren't happy about it. People really were, like, you know, people who was blowing his whistle at weren't happy about it. Caused a big huge deal, and there was a big fucking illegal, horrible smear campaign against him, which wasn't true. You know, it was one thing if it was true, but it wasn't true. And then people tried to cover it up. And I'm fairly sure this is what this round of email shite... No, yeah, that was it, as per usual. They were having the investigation into that. And this person was supposed to hand over some emails and, you know, denied their existence or some shit and then got caught rapid. Because, I mean, they're sitting there on your computer like, you know, you read them, you responded to some of them. You know, so anyway, look... She did the right thing and went off into the sunset with her pension for the next 90 years.
Yeah, she didn't get fired. She, you know, stepped down.
Yeah, she stepped
AKA
down.
Got all her benefits
Now, look,
and fucking everything else.
I'm saying I actually can't even remember her name or if it's a her or not. I'm sure there's some more politically minded people who are thinking, oh, geez, well, obviously the Tànaiste is, you know, such and such. But look, it's been replaced by a guy who's supposed to be, you know, a bit less corrupt. So a few steps in the right direction.
Come here, on us not knowing about it, do the Americans know about it? Like the general, I know, you know, it's hard for you to, you know, summarise the opinion of 300 million people, but are they aware of it? Is it in the American news? Because I'd probably be shamefully, I'm probably closer to American news than I am Irish news, because I just deem it more kind of relevant, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But is it making big waves in the States? But then again, if it was making big waves in the States, it'd be on our news.
Yeah.
Or would it?
I actually don't know. I have a few American friends. One who I spoke about this. I spoke about this with her, and yeah, she of course knew about it, but she made the same point. Look, Republican in the White House, so there's going to be a lot of Republican stuff done. This falls into that category. Nothing we can do about it.
And what about the...
Actually, I think it was specifically about this. I asked her, did she contact her senator, which is basically the only thing you can do. She's from Georgia, from the state of Georgia. So she told me, look, I'm not going to waste my time contacting Georgian senators because, you know, they're all Republicans, so this is an issue. Their vote is sealed. Look, and she said, in fairness to her, she did say that she should have. And a mutual friend of ours who's like super into all of this, works in politics, would be upset with her and, you know, disappointed that she didn't call her senator and, you know, let them hear her voice at least. But she expected that it would have fallen on deaf ears, so she actually didn't bother.
Yeah, I think that's... Jesus, that's, I suppose, what's wrong with
but sure, look,
everywhere.
I don't know if the Tànaiste is a man or a woman. I know now it's a man, but I don't know was it a man or a woman previously, so...
I wouldn't know any of this, only you fucking tell me.
Well, there we are, so look, yeah.
Do you know kind of way? I'm just so disillusioned with the whole fucking thing, and in a way, this podcast is my attempt to, you know, do something, because, like, the idea of me contacting an Irish politician to change anything, it's just like, oh Christ. Yeah. It's like trying to clean a car with a bucket of shit. Yeah. Do you know that kind of way? It's just...
No offence to any politicians out there.
But look...
Are they the bucket of shit or are they the car?
The worst thing that they've done is, I suppose, alienate people.
But of course, from their point of view, that's great.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean,
if you alienate people who are in charge of whether or not you get re-elected, fantastic. Yes. What you want is for 6 people to vote and 3 of them to be your mum, your dad, and your wife.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then you've gotten half of the vote. You know, it's in the interest of those type of politicians to alienate the voters, so that people don't know what it's about and vote based on the guy who is from their area or has their family name, or, you know, looks like them, or, you know, you go in and say, oh, that's the guy with the black hair. Yeah, he turned up to our local town. That fella, I'll vote for him. Based on what? Vague familiarness.
Yeah,
familiarness.
No, absolutely. And I love the idea of maybe in the not too distant future. Maybe I love the idea of this whole podcast or movement or mentality or whatever this off the lead business is. I love it to inspire some, or maybe not even inspire, but enrage. I love the idea of somebody listening to us, pulling their fucking hair out, going, oh my fucking God, you don't know the fucking name of our fucking Tànaiste. You don't follow politics, you don't have a fucking clue. Jesus fucking Christ. If you're listening and you're that person, I want to fucking hear from you, and I want you to put you opposite me, and let's, you know, fucking tell me, because I love the idea of getting informed and giving people a platform to talk freely about these things, because you're not going to be able to come on, you know, LMFM or whatever, the national broadcaster isn't going to come on and let you say that you think this politician's a fucking prick and this other politician, she's a bitch and X, Y, Z. They're not really going to let you talk freely, number one. And two, they're not going to give you the time that it's going to take to give people listening a broad opinion of what's going on, which this platform is designed to do. 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. If you've got something to say, there's a ready appetite for people to listen to you.
And who is listening? Because unfortunately, I suppose I should admit that I haven't listened to any of them.
Yeah, you bad cunt.
Yeah, I haven't listened to any of them.
I'm not sure who specifically, but it's over 1,500 people in 20 countries as it stands.
What?
Yeah, the overwhelming majority of that is in Ireland, and I can only assume that the people that are listening to it in the other 19 countries are Irish people.
Abroad?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm assuming.
Someone with like a sweet tour network going on in their house down in Mayo or something.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But yeah, so being honest with you, I don't really know. But that 1,500 people in 20 countries is on the back of 9 Facebook posts on my Facebook page. I have, 450 friends or something.
Okay.
So, I don't have the dedicated page up yet. I haven't pushed to promote it. It's not on YouTube yet. It's loaded in the background, but I'm kind of constantly tweaking it until I'm more comfortable that it's ready for a kind of a larger audience. But so it's had what I would consider to be absolutely stupendous, incomprehensibly good.
Did you say
reach.
1,500 people?
Yes.
And what is it, 3 hours ish?
Yeah, well, there's 20 plus hours up over the course of the 9 podcasts.
Nice, that's a lot of hours.
It's unfucking believable.
What's that in days? What's 1,500 times 3 hours in days?
Yeah, fuck, I don't... Yeah, Jesus, I have no idea.
4,500 hours in days?
Insane.
So
Insane.
It's four...
But
just nearly 200 days worth of content.
But the beauty of it is that I haven't robbed anybody else's content.
No.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, or listeners.
They're not listening to me at the expense of anyone or anything else. They're doing what they would have been doing anyway, but instead of listening to the fucking radio or to the hum of a bus or whatever it is, they're listening to this for, whatever reason.
So wow, that's incredible. Well, just as you're talking there, I was kind of checking my math. I think it's 180 days of content listened
1,500 by...
3, yeah.
Yeah, my back of the napkin maths is bad now, so I'm just going to smile and nod here pleasantly.
If you lined all those people up and told them to listen one after another, it would take half a year, 6 months. 6 months.
That's not, is it? It couldn't be.
180 days is half a
year.
year.
Now, to be fair, there's nothing to say that they've all listened to them
entirely.
Yes.
Okay.
For all I know, 1,000 of those could have been people listening for 10 seconds
by
and
accident.
This is shit, and turning it off.
But if that was the case, they're not coming back and listening to episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So.
True, and a weird thing, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but a weird thing, or something that I found weird, is you're going to go live tonight, more or less in the next,
Is this
hour
not
or
live
so.
now?
Unfortunately not, no. It will be. Give it time.
I thought you said we're live at the beginning.
I did, yeah. I don't know where that even came from. I think Rogan says that. I think I robbed that directly from Rogan's fucking playbook.
Nice.
But, who else to fucking rob it from? Only the man with 120 million downloads a
He
month.
hardly has 6 months worth of listenership. No way.
Oh, like I do?
Like you do, in 20 countries. No way.
Couldn't possibly have near the reach that I have. But, an interesting thing is when you go live, let's say tomorrow, let's say the average listenership is just a figure out in my head is 50 a day.
Okay.
So it'll be 50 a day, and it's always 50 a day, and then when a new one goes up, it spikes. So a new one goes up, and it goes up to 120.
What goes up to 120?
The amount of people that have listened that day. So
to that episode or to all the episodes combined? That day.
All the episodes combined. Okay. So let's say across all the episodes I'm getting 50 a day. Again, I'm not quoting these, I'm just literally making these figures up. So every day 50 people are listening to whatever podcast I have online. So 50 on the Monday, 50 on the Tuesday, 50 on the Wednesday. This goes up on the Thursday. So because it's Thursday evening, no one will really see it till probably Friday. So instead of it being 50 views on Friday, it'll be 120 views on Friday.
Right.
And you'll be like, fucking hell, Des is after contributing 70 additional views. And then I'll go into your specific podcast and check the viewers. It will literally be 2.
Yeah.
And at the start I was like, what the fuck? How is that even possible? Or what's going on? And what I think is happening, I've no way of kind of confirming this, but what I think is happening is people see, oh fuck, he has another one up.
I
better
watched,
fucking catch up.
Hilarious. So it spurs people to listen to 4, 5 and 6.
It seems to, which...
Little do they know that they're not sequential or in any way, you know, chronological. The episodes, you know, don't spoiler alert, you don't need to listen to 8 before you listen to 9.
Very, very true, but I know from my own podcast consuming, or my own podcast consumption, like I'd follow Joe Rogan, say, and Blind Boy, not that he needs a fucking plug, but if there's anybody listening to this and they're not listening to the Blind Boy podcast, get on Blind Boy's podcast. I think he's doing them weekly. I think he's about 7 up. He puts them up every Wednesday. But just look, whatever you're listening to this on, whether it's Stitcher or SoundCloud or whatever else, check out Blind Boys. It's fucking class.
Paid promotion right there.
Yeah. Ching.
Dashing out big dollar bills for this. And now there's some skeptical cunt thinking, oh, was that their acknowledgement that this is a paid promotion?
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, it fucking most certainly is not.
Unless someone wants to pay us. And by us I mean me.
I'm not refusing money from anybody who's listening. Not refusing money. But yeah, with my own podcast consumption, I'd follow, let's say, Joe Rogan or Blind Boy or that. And Joe Rogan's a better example because he'd put up 3 in a week.
That's crazy. You know,
yeah, and again, they're 2-3 hours long. Like
I'm so, you know, not in the podcast sphere. The idea of putting up 2-3 hour long podcasts 3 times a week, to me that shouts quantity over quality. And I know tons of people love Rogan.
I love him. Now again, I'm listening to him religiously for fucking 2 years, so at my stage now I am cherry picking. Like,
okay.
I like, there's, out of his last 50, I might have only listened to, I don't know, 20 or 30. But even that's colossal.
That's
colossal. But, and again,
no, I'm comparing that to like going to the movies or to the cinema. You know, you're talking 2 hours, 3 hours. Have you gone to see the cinema or to watch, like, let's say a TV show that's 3 hours long? Yeah,
but I can't go to the cinema. Like, I have to drive to Dublin in the morning, a van loaded up full of produce there. So I leave the house at 4 o'clock in the morning to be in the city centre for, you know, 4:45 or so. I can't be in the cinema while I'm driving there.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet. No, give VR and fucking Elon Musk a few more years. But moving swiftly away from my podcast and swiftly towards Elon Musk, what I was going to ask you earlier about people, you know, not paying attention to what's going on or not being in the loop. Has Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or any of these kind of superstar business people that everyone has heard of, are they not kind of being vocal about this vote? And surely they're enough in the loop to know the consequences and repercussions of this.
Yeah, well, obviously, I say obviously, so I guess not obviously. Musk, you know, with Tesla and SpaceX and all that, not really an internet company. So Elon Musk, not an internet company, but quite interestingly, he was one of the very few, one of the only few kind of big tech, you know, guys to sit on the White House technology advisory panel when Trump came in. A lot of the other guys kind of shunned him because of comments. You know, obviously Musk is an immigrant to America, hence the name. Elon, is he Ukrainian or South African or something?
Oh, South African now that you say it, I think.
Sergey Brin from Google, he's not exactly, you know, a Texan. I think he's Russian or something like that. Like, all those big tech guys are well, a lot of them are, you know, immigrants to the States, or their parents were immigrants to the States.
So you'd assume inherently anti-Trump.
Well, basically, yeah. And, you know, they're obviously bigger than just petty little things like that, but anti some of the policies. You know, a lot of the policies that were, you know, aiming to force them to bring manufacturing back to the States that they didn't want to do. So a lot of them shunned him. Musk was one of the few who didn't shun him and did sit on the advisory council, the technology council, to the White House, you know, from day one. But, like, only recently he just had to bail ship. His original point that he kind of made to sort of say he's not a Trump fan so that everyone didn't think he was, you know, that way inclined, was that, look, if you don't agree with something and you want to change it, easier to change it from the inside than, you know, sitting at the table than shouting from the outside.
Yeah, of course.
So, look, he sat at the table, he did his part, but he had to part ways not too long ago. So I don't think he has actually voiced any concern or issues over this because, look, he's not a technology company, really.
But I mean, is there his technology company counterpart?
Well, there is.
Or
Jeff Bezos with Amazon. You know, whatever the guy's name is, Bezos, he doesn't want, Amazon being slowed down or the images of the products not loading properly. Imagine, if Walmart paid a bundle of money so that their online shopping portal, was speedier than Amazon's. So Amazon voiced their concern in line with all the other guys, Microsoft.
Voiced their concern, or, threw a couple of $100 billion at the problem?
See, the problem is that a couple of $100 billion have been thrown at it. Well, not billion, but there's like so much money surrounding this issue already. So the chief commissioner of the FCC, the guy has a difficult to pronounce name, so I'm not even going to try. But he's like an ex-employee of Verizon, which is one of the largest ISPs in the States. In fact, the second largest ISP in the States. So and he's Republican, obviously. So throwing money at him isn't going to solve the problem because he's drowning in money that's been thrown at him. That's why he's working there. Yeah. So, like...
Throwing a bucket of water at a drowning man. Like.
Yeah, for sure. So, I don't think throwing money at them was the solution to this, because, to be honest, that's the problem. That's this problem.
Yeah, of course.
This problem is, a big corporation wants to remove the regulator's power to regulate them. So they got a guy in the office, and the vote's, supposed to be happening today. So, it's pretty standard business as usual. They threw a lot of money at the problem, and everyone says about Trump that he has, a lot of ties to corporate America, and all his claims to be looking out for the working man and, jobs in America. It's all bullshit that he's a kind of corporate shill, which, look, I don't really care about Trump in fairness, but I would agree with that in this instance. So... they've all voiced their concern. Amazon, Bezos, whoever, all voiced their concern, but I don't see them throwing a lot of money at him. They might have, I guess they did. They've all written those open letters trying to
lobbied whatever way they lobby.
In the regular way, exactly. Yeah. It's not a throw a load of money sort of thing. I guess Bezos, whatever the hell his name is, Jeff, is far busier throwing his money at other things, like far busier.
Tell me more about that now, because You've told me a little bit about Amazon, and I think Irish people in general have missed the whole Amazon thing.
Amazon's an Irish company, Fran.
Oh, should they have an office down in somewhere, do they?
The head office, that's an Irish company. They're based in Ireland. Actually, I don't know why you're laughing. Amazon's an
I've got 12 and a half reasons to be laughing, Des.
Yeah, or less. And I'd say he has about 40 billion reasons to be delighted that it's an Irish company.
So go on, expand on that now for the uninitiated, myself included.
Yeah. Which is what's Amazon? Amazon is like the biggest online retailer in the States,
But I think to a lot of people listening, that will sound similar to Alibaba is the biggest, whatever the fuck they are. No one in Ireland's heard of Alibaba, really.
Yeah.
And
people know Alibaba.
Vaguely, they know it exists. I mean, I couldn't, it's a version of eBay, is it? Like, that's my honest... idea.
It's a Chinese online site where you can buy stuff at incredible prices, but usually in big bulk, in varying quality, and
so like an industrial or commercial version of eBay.
Yeah, I know some people who have looked at buying a T-shirt for 40 cents, provided you buy 600 of them, and they take 6 weeks to get shipped. Yeah. So if you want 600 T-shirts, or you have 600 friends and you all want a T-shirt, that is the place to go. There are some people, sort of entrepreneurs, that would buy a lot of merch on Alibaba. Alibaba's a great place to buy merch. You should look into it and get it all branded. Either there, you can get them to do the branding. You provide the branding as such, and they'll apply it to the merch. You get it shipped, and flag it to a load of cunts. Sweet hats, mugs, T-shirts, cups, swimming caps, whatever it happens to be, little shorts, running jerseys and stuff, anything. It's popular in that sense.
I'll definitely go down that route. I mean, I am 100% completely committed to the whole merchandise element of Off the Lead, because I think it's the mentality of kind of being off the lead and not towing the line and not just watching what everyone watches, and just having a bit of fucking autonomy and a bit of, I don't know, self-respect to a degree, and a bit of ownership of your own life and your own destiny. That's something that's worth promoting, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are doing it already, but they don't have
Sweet merch.
that they badly need at an affordable price. No, but they don't have a collective kind of banner to fucking fly under it. If that doesn't sound too patronising or fucking self-obsessed.
It's
or
funny
egotistical.
when people are wearing their merch, and if you see someone else wearing it, especially for something that's niche like this. Something that's niche like this, at least for now, podcasting, and in terms of your own particular podcast, there's a little sort of nod of respect, of acknowledgement. Oh, you have the Off the Lead t-shirt. Oh, I have the Off the Lead bag. Look, here it is.
Yeah, well, put it this way, again, getting back to Joe Rogan, he is his merchandise. I have an On It t-shirt.
Is that his thing?
That's his brand.
What does that mean?
He's part of the On It Academy.
On it, as in like, let's get on it? Or
yeah,
what?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not. Now again, I'm not entirely sure.
I just threw my money at it. Came up on an ad in Facebook.
A mate of mine, he said he was getting it, and I said, yeah, fucking definitely.
Nice.
But the reason I said yeah, fucking definitely, was because, put it this way, if I was out and about in it, let's say if I was in fucking Aldi doing me shopping, and a lad walked by me with an On It t-shirt. I'd be nearly inclined
You'd stop and have a chat.
I fucking would, you know that. And any lad wearing an On It t-shirt, because it's not in Pennies and Dunnes and TK Maxx and every other cunt in shop.
Like,
in
it's
the
just that
country.
little bit more effort to buy, as opposed to you bought it by accident when you went into Tesco to get groceries.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like nobody in Ireland has a hand-me-down On It t-shirt from their cousin or their brother or whoever else.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, yeah. But there's that kind of, I don't know, a kind of a group mentality that I'm trying to
it's like a club or something.
Yeah, but I've been toying with different kind of definitions of it. I don't know whether it's a fucking club or a cult or a religion or an ethos.
If it's a religion, dibs leader.
But you see, the cool thing about a religion is there's a lot of fucking decent tax breaks, so you could kind of pawn it off as a religion. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah.
Now again, I
church.
haven't looked into it, but put it this way: religious institutions don't pay rates. So if I wanted to set up like a hub, or like rent a unit, in the same way that you go to a mixed martial arts club, if you could go to an Off the Lead club where maybe there was a live broadcast of what we're doing here now. Maybe there's people that would like to look at this in person. Maybe there's a questions and answers piece or
some sort of event.
Anything, like something, because I think there's a real
some sort of food kitchen for homeless cunts or something.
Whenever the fuck it is. But something to just kind of, rally people around, and something that people can, wake up to certain things. Like, I know myself, like, Jesus Christ, I wish I was listening to these types of conversations when I was 15. I'd be a completely different person by now, and I wouldn't have made half the fucking mistakes, stupid mistakes, needless mistakes that I've made since I was, a teenager or that.
Yeah, that's why I think TV is such shite.
You kind of, I can't give you credit,
but I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. But I got off the TV and radio and newspaper bandwagon a long time ago. You go one step further, I think, that you would go as far as to say that you don't like TV programs or movies. Now, I will sit down and watch a box set, or I'll sit down and I'll go to the cinema. I enjoy movies and all that. You've gone one step further and don't do any of that. Well, even.
It's, it's not that I... This is going to come across weird for people who don't know me, but I don't like anything
except Eminem.
Well, I like Eminem. That's true. Eminem and YouTube. That's no, but like in terms of movies, it's not that I don't go to the movies on some sort of moral high ground or something. I don't like movies. Any movie. I actually saw that movie Dunkirk recently by myself because my lame friend didn't turn up. But
again, that was a free ticket thing, wasn't it?
It was a free ticket thing.
And nothing better to do thing. And
the special screening in the Film Institute, again with a friend who I don't really hang out with that much just because of the distance. So yeah, it was we were hanging out. He happened to have free tickets to a special screening of Dunkirk, and the movie was great, but I think it was more the experience. It was a special screening in like the original 50-inch film or something, so it had a real authentic movie feel to it. It wasn't Avengers 8.
But which you've still to see.
No, I have the box set. I'm waiting for the box set to download. But you're saying there about TV programs. I actually have no problem with TV programs, as stupid as that sounds. It's the medium of TV. It's the turn on the TV and passively consume whatever the fuck is on. For the next now until you go to bed.
Yeah, no, Oisin touched on that. A previous guest, Oisin Farry, he recalls sitting down to watch something that was coming on at 8.
And it was 6.
At 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So, whatever was on the 4 or 5 fucking channels he had, because this is obviously back before, Sky and everything else.
Okay.
Everyone had what we call poverty TV now. Like, you had 5 or 6 channels, RTE1, 2, TV3 wasn't even a thing, I don't think. Nor was
TG Cahar, presumably.
I don't think that was even a thing. Maybe it wasn't.
I
but I
thought
remember
TG
that.
Cahar was out forever.
No, I don't think so.
There you go.
Jeez, I hope I'm not misremembering this, but I'm fairly sure I remember TG Cahar becoming a thing.
Right.
Now, I might have been very young,
Okay.
but it's still in living memory. So.
Okay.
Well,
of course, like TV is in living memory. TV is nearly in your living memory. Like TV is certainly in your mom's living memory.
Fuck yeah! You see, that's the thing that
You're
we
saying
forget,
TG
like,
Cahar is in living
yeah,
memory.
It's mad,
like, jeez Louise, fucking hell. Fucking World War One is in living memory for some people.
yeah. No,
Well-
absolutely. It's fucking hilarious. And we touched on this earlier. Like, I remember clearly being in my granny's house. She passed away recently. She was 100. She was just 100.
100 and something.
My granny, our granny, must have been cousins and all. But I remember being down in our granny's house fucking years ago. I was only small, but there was a black guy there. Father Sheeda, I think his name was. And the reason that he
You call him a black guy. He's kind of more than a black guy, isn't he? Isn't there a more personal association with your family than a black guy?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say.
Oh, sorry. I was like, what the hell story is this that he's telling?
No. He was a black guy, and he happened to be the priest that married my parents. So he was back. That's the point I was saying. He was a black guy who was coming back to Lady Rat, where he married my parents. But I remember at the time, so within my lifetime, I probably would have been 5 or 6 or so, him being in the house, and I remember clear as fucking day, other people coming to my granny's house that was full of people, all of whom I knew because they were all, my family
Neighbours and relatives,
whatever else,
whatever,
of course, or people who I would have seen in my granny's house before. And I remember seeing new faces, and they were there to see the black guy. That's how fucking recent
in real life
everything is. Yeah, in real, like, do you know what I mean? This isn't a fucking sketch show or a
Yeah.
Father Ted episode or whatever.
It wasn't
else.
a zombie. It was just a black guy.
He wasn't 8 foot tall. He wasn't famous.
Yeah.
There was nothing abnormal about him. Full stop.
Mm-hmm.
He just happened to be black, and it was just such a new thing for people back
How
then.
was there a black priest back then? For people who don't know, the location is extremely rural.
Yeah, very, very, very rural. But then again, what, an hour and a half from Dublin? Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah,
So
which is the most rural it could be. Any further, and it'd be close to Galway or somewhere.
Yeah, well, very true. Yeah, very true. So the reason he was there, I genuinely don't know. I don't know how he ended up marrying my parents.
Okay, right. He wasn't the local priest.
God, no, not at all. No,
Because I guess people weren't travelling to see the local priest.
no. Now again, people hadn't travelled to see him. I think the
crowd had gathered.
the lad down the road had heard that your man, the black priest, was back, and he'd never seen a black man before, so just kind of wanted to go down and see
Nice.
him. Like mad, like almost like a fucking
A sketch from a comedy show.
sketch, yeah,
It
exactly.
reminds me of The Only Gay in the Village.
yes.
From-
He was the only black in the village, and people came down to fucking see him. Like mental
Reminds me,
stuff, like.
you told me here at your house now that when you were growing up as a kid and you'd be like out in the garden or maybe down in the field or whatever, that when you'd hear a car coming,
No, that wasn't me. No, that was my dad.
Oh, that was your dad.
Yeah, my dad. Yeah, now if he was alive now, he'd be 80. Just to give people an idea of the timeline, and he remembers, like, he grew up in the same road that we're on here now.
Okay.
So a main road, 5 minutes from Navan, a national primary road. I remember him telling me that when they were kids, they'd be out playing in the fields, fucking
Doing
cowboys
whatever,
and Indians or whatever, eating slugs and snails and whatever young boys do.
Well, 80 years ago. I guess 70 years ago.
Yeah, probably 7. Yeah, so yeah, probably about 7 years ago. But he remembers clearly as a regular thing, a regular occurrence. They'd be out playing and they'd hear something, and everyone would freeze and just kind of look at each other, and all the ears pricked, and they're like, "Fuck, is that a car?" And they'd run like fuck to the road to hopefully get a glimpse of either the car driving off in the distance or best case scenario,
it passing by.
Yeah, to see it coming
in action, a live car.
Yeah, and like, wow, like literally kids.
Yeah.
And think of that from like an aerial perspective. Think of a car pottering around, whatever breed of car would have been around at the
Just
time.
endless streams of people
Kids
gathering
running from
to
out of
see
the
it.
ditches and, you know, desperate to get a glimpse of this. Like,
Yeah,
and
not to get a shot of driving it or to get in it and have a look around, just to see it.
yeah, and I'm not talking about, you know, I'm not talking about my dad who was a historian who studied ancient Ireland. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? This is just my dad,
Yeah.
not even my dad's dad.
Yeah.
My dad when he was a kid.
Yeah, crazy.
Insane. And even our granny that passed away there in, was it February or March of this year at the ripe old age of 100.
No, it was
You're
during
looking
the
at me
summer.
funny. Fuck, was
her
it that late in
birthday
the year?
was in.
Oh fuck, that's what I'm confused
You're thinking
with.
of the
23rd
100th
of
birthday.
January.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, she passed away during the summer.
Sorry, apologies.
She was like 100 years and 6 months or something. So
yes.
it was halfway through the year, July or something.
But to think that she was literally older than the Republic of Ireland, older than the state.
Yeah.
Technically grew up in England. Like, well,
In-
technically
yeah,
was
in
born
the
in
Empire.
England. In, you know, Navan. Just
Yeah.
outside Navan. Like.
Yeah. Well, of course, not England. You know, not England proper, like the Empire.
No, but like, the United Kingdom or whatever the
Yeah.
fuck it was called or referred to back then, I don't even know. But
well, I guess during World War One, pre-World War Two, like electricity in the house,
running water.
yeah, they didn't have good broadband back then. You know, it was.
Yeah. She had 16 kids.
And no broadband, no Netflix, no YouTube.
No wonder she'd 16 kids. But again, this isn't, you know, like we call it kind of history, but like what's fucking history? Do you know that kind of way? It's so fucking recent.
If it's like your parents' life, that doesn't.
Yeah,
You know,
your mum and your dad. Like,
yeah,
you know?
is that going in a history book somewhere? You know, I don't think so.
It's mad. What's been your experience? Because to give people listening, it's not obviously not a visual. You're what? What would you even say? Brown?
Ripped? Oh, sorry.
Ripped and sweet?
Ripped and sweet. Sorry, I didn't realise we were going down. I thought we were going to talk about how ripped I am. But no, yeah.
No one wants to hear about ripped Jardes. I'll put up a ripped photo of you, okay?
Sweet, nice. Good stuff, that's all I'm here for. Drive some followers towards my sweet YouTube channel.
What was would you even call it a racist comment? The swimming comment?
Ah, Jesus.
It's hard to call it a racist comment, is it?
Look, I suppose nearly by definition it falls into racism, but was it, you know, mean-spirited? Certainly not. It was in fact probably the opposite. It was, you know, an old man saying the first thing that came into his mind.
It's fucking hilarious. Just amuse the people that are listening
Yeah.
who don't know what the fuck we're on about.
So swimming away in Dunleary in County Dublin with a friend of mine, a popular swimming spot called the 40 Foot. Swimming away, you know,
In the sea, like on the coast.
in the
Yeah.
sea, yeah, exactly. During the summer, there's a little ring of boys that you can swim around, and we happened to be swimming anti-clockwise around them, and there was this older gentleman swimming clockwise around them. So at one point out in the sea, our paths crossed. And, you know, mid-stroke, he sticks his head one way out of the water. I'd say you're used to warmer waters. And then, boom, keeps stroking. And for a minute, I was just like, hold the phone. What did he say? I was like, right, okay. You know, I'm not used to warmer waters, but okay. Anyway, so on we went. And this is my friend Anton and I. And we finished our little anti-clockwise loop. And then you have to return, so we were on the return leg to come back, and of course we crossed paths with this old guy again, and this time, you know, all of us are on our return journeys. We're kind of a bit tired from the swim, whatever, so we're sort of putting around, and we stopped to talk next to one of the boys, just floating out there, and then he says to my friend Anton, who's Ukrainian, and I guess he kind of looks Ukrainian, if that's a thing. So the older guy says to him, "Huh, sure, look at you. You could be Spanish or anything." And it was just like, whoa, like, okay, yeah, I guess he could be, but you know, so could you. So could I. So anyway, yeah, we stopped to talk to him, you know, just having a nice day for a swim, yada yada, and on he went and on we went, and we just laughed about it. But yeah, I guess, look, it falls into or does it? Yeah, I suppose it does fall into the racism category, but mean-spirited, you know, certainly not. He wasn't. I guess it could be seen to be insulting or rude, but he wasn't trying to hurt anyone's feelings or nothing like that. You know, I guess he was trying to make conversation in a weird way.
Yeah,
In his own unique...
Innocent.
Innocent is a very polite way of putting it.
Yeah.
In his own unique, innocent way, yeah.
And I think a lot of what's called racism in Ireland, a lot of it's innocence, really, is it?
Well, certainly some of it is.
Don't get me wrong, there are people out there who are just complete racist wankers, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I've had both. I've had those funny little comments from people. I think I might have told you before about the priest.
Oh, the priest is brilliant. The priest is brilliant. Again, I'm not only do I want you to tell it to everyone listening, but I'm dying to hear it again. Like,
not recently, but at the time of the incident, I had recently moved to Kildare. Was newly in the house, like one day or something, and I was a rented house that was owner occupied. So the landlady lived there, but she wasn't there. The second day I was there, and the doorbell rang. And I was like, oh, geez, I guess I'll answer that. I'm living here now, so yeah, I'll go answer that. Answered it, and there in front of me, in all of his gowns and everything, a priest, white-haired, old man, in the gowns. No question whatsoever, a priest. There he was. And he says to me, sees me, obviously, and says, you must not be from here, or something along those lines. And I was like, oh, okay, kind of thinking to myself, oh, it's a priest, he's trying to sell me on something. The sooner he goes, the better. So I was sort of happy to let him think I'm not from here and send him on his way. And he sort of gestured at the little collar as if I didn't know what it was. I'm a priest. I'm a priest. I'm the local priest. I was like, oh yeah, I see that there. And what does he say to me? Where are you from? Is that what he said? Yeah, where are you from? And I was like, oh, maybe he's heard my Navan accent and that's what he means. Or maybe he's being a bit racist and he means, why do I look the way I look? And I said to him, well, England originally. Ah, India. You must be Hindu, so? And I'm just looking at him like, wow, okay. And he says to me, well, I shan't waste your time, nice meeting you. Again, kind of being polite in his own little way. I'll be off. And I was like, okay, grand. And off he went.
Yeah, what do you do with that? Like, I mean,
gobsmacked.
I was just going to say, like, what did you feel, or what did you do, or
said
say, or...
blatantly to him, in as clearly as I'm speaking now, in what I think is a fairly normal accent from Ireland. Oh, I guess, like, from England, if that's what you mean. Ah, yes, India. I was like, okay. Right. And so anyway, on he went, but like those types of incidents, like, that's funny. Look, you're laughing, I'm laughing. I'm fairly sure I even text your mom to say
to tell her this,
to tell her how funny
story.
It was. Yeah. Oh, I'm so upset or nothing like that. Obviously.
I'm moving back, whatever. Like, yeah.
I've had endless experiences like that. There was another one in Kildare, or maybe I won't bore your listeners.
No, go for it, man. Go for it. Because again, I think I'm lucky in a sense that, like, you're a first cousin of mine, so yourself and your brother and your sister have been kind of part of my life and all the rest of it. And I nearly fucking shudder to think what my view of brown people, call them, would be if I wasn't kind of exposed to yourselves and didn't know you, etc.
Yeah.
And I think
didn't take it for granted that we're normal people.
Yeah, it's a weird one. But sorry, no. But on that, yeah, no, do, because I'd love to hear whatever it is and more if you have them, like.
So I was travelling from Kildare till Dublin, same town, a few weeks or months later, whatever. I was only living there for a year, so it was during that year on the train. And going with the girl I was going with at the time, who actually is Indian, which is kind of ironic. Well, not ironic, but it just adds a little layer of hilarity to the story. Sitting on the train, and we were going somewhere, Dublin or something, and had brought like a little packed lunch of stuff to eat on the train, because it's basically too tight to buy food in Dublin. And so we're sitting in like a little booth on the train, and an old guy opposite us. Huh! What has you here? To the two of us, as if, geez, too. And the town was a Thai, which is, a small kind of glorified village, a big village, small town.
Yeah, a rural place, yeah. Small town.
Yeah. And he's like, huh, visiting the Thai, are you? Looking at us like, they came from India to a Thai. Why? And
why?
And I was like, well, I live here and I'm Irish and I've lived in Ireland like all my life. But I didn't tell him. I kind of looked at Nikita at the time and I was like, well, she is Indian. Yeah, so fuck it. She hasn't come from Indian because she's American. But whatever. And so he says, why is here? What he is doing? He's on holidays. And, she was on holidays, but I wasn't. It was my weekend off from work, like. And so anyway, he's like, oh, and he gestured at the packed lunch. Maybe we had some strawberries or something that we bought in the fucking shop. And he was like, oh, they're great, aren't they? Do they have them in India? And we were just like, well, I wouldn't know on account of having never been there. And again, he was kind of, an innocent old man, to use your word, kind of just being nice. If we were tourists, we'd be delighted.
And look, if he was racist, he wouldn't be having the chat with you.
Exactly, yeah. He would have moved seats and thought, I'll stay to those two,
Yeah.
Anyway, so that went on, like, the whole journey, like, for half an hour on the train to Dublin, what part of India are you from, and what you over here visiting, are you having a good time, and genuinely, just like with the priest, in some incidences like that, it's easier just to say yes.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You must be Hindu, like. And I'm looking at the priest and I say, yeah, I am. So I guess you have no reason to stay and try and convince me of anything.
Yeah,
so you go on your way and I'll go on mine. And so, we kind of plumosed the man. We told him, here we are on our little holiday from India, just coming to see the sights. And he was delighted. He probably went off to tell, whoever he tells, his wife or his friends.
That he was talking to someone really exotic. Or
two Indians on the train up from a Thai. Would you believe it? They had, strawberries from the shop. Oh, having a great time. And it was just like, geez, man. But yeah, look, he obviously wasn't taking the train to Dublin because it would have been a long day for him if he was. Every non-white person he bumps into, what are you doing? Having a good time. But look, that's part and parcel. Well, I suppose it is and it isn't, which is a weird thing. I take it as part and parcel of it, but some people be upset, being identified as something based on, their race or ethnicity or whatever the fuck it is.
And how do you take that? Like that person that you're describing there that would get upset at any of the three instances.
I have friends like that, yeah. I have friends who would.
But from your point of view, because you're a fucking odd cunt generally, like as am I. I mean that as a term of endearment. Like I genuinely do. You're far from normal, and in a very, very good way. But the people who would have taken all of those three or any of those three kind of to heart, do you think that they, are justified or need to get on with it, or what? Like
probably a bit of both. In the grand, like. They are justified because, for one, and this is something I've said to you and to many other people, these are the conversations you have with everybody you meet.
Yeah.
Like when I meet someone new, in that first interaction, unless it's a quick hello goodbye situation, you're having this conversation.
Yeah.
Why are you brown? And how do you have that accent? And where are you from? No, where are you really from? And it's, I don't take it to heart. But it's boring. At least it's boring, and at most, obviously, for some people, it's insulting. To have that same conversation every single time. Yeah,
if it was, once a year, there'd be a novelty factor. But if it's every content
and it literally is every time you meet a new person, and sometimes before you meet a new person. For example, these days you meet someone, you're talking to someone online, like it comes up, like instantly. Why are you brown? You don't seem that foreign, but yet you're clearly really foreign, and it's like, well. I guess not, But in terms of the people who take it to heart, they are justified. But at the same time, fucking get on with your life. That's, I can see Anton, he's probably 6'2", 6'3", a big, strong guy. He's Ukrainian.
I was just going to say the Ukrainian
My Ukrainian
guy,
friend from the swimming situation. He takes these things to heart. Big, strong, strapping man. He takes these things to heart. Being identified, and because he's white, he takes them to heart even worse. He's much closer to your appearance than to mine. He's white with a little tinge of, sort of European tan about him. But he takes those things to heart, being identified from a distance as a certain thing, which he doesn't identify himself as. When last was he in Ukraine? Okay, 3 years ago, to visit his grandmother. Not to sing the national anthem and wave the flag about. He'd been here for, like, what? Since the junior cert or something?
Yeah.
So, the majority of his life and the portion of his life where he's been conscious, you know, not like sub 10 years old, you know, basically just a ball of cells barely alive, you know. So I'd say he probably had 5 conscious years in Ukraine and then the other 15 here in Ireland, you know. So he takes those things to heart and it upsets him, and he'd probably call your man a cunt after he swam off, or he'd probably swim after him and call him a cunt, you know. But fucking get on with it. Don't be such, you know. Look, I have sympathy for him, but it's not my style to go home and cry myself to sleep about it, you know. Not at all.
No, I've sympathy for him, and I've sympathy for the 3 guys that you had an interaction with, because I can't help but feel that I've been there myself.
Well, we all have, yeah.
Like I can't give a story or an anecdote of when I've said it, but I'm really trying to think of an instance, because I've definitely done it, inadvertently maybe. So asking, you know,
remember you
why
throw
you brown?
those stones at the family of black kids.
They deserve it. No, but I can't think of a specific time when I've done, you know, anything remotely racist. But I'm sure that I've asked somebody in the past, you know, why are you brown? Not why are you brown, but
that's what you meant.
Yeah, I'll ask probably in a roundabout way.
How long have you been living here? And, you know, she looks back at you and says, I'm 24, so 24 years. Yeah. Funnily enough, my dad is one of those, he fits a certain stereotype. He's a huge racist. He's a reverse racist. He's a sideways racist. He's just a flat out racist. He says the most racist things. He says such racist things that about the category of people he fits into, and, you know, every other category. So at least he's consistent and uniform. Yeah. He says such ridiculous things that genuinely sometimes as I'm talking to him, I type them down, send them to my friends. I'm like, you won't believe what he just said.
Yeah.
Oh, you
to immortalise it nearly, lest it be forgotten.
Yeah, like he just comes out with the most ridiculous things. And look, he watches an awful lot of sort of tabloid news and that sort of thing that really promotes that sort of mindset. And
do you know something? That he's almost a canary in the coal mine there, because he's espousing what God knows how many other people are thinking.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, he is the blatant ignorance to say it out loud.
Yeah, but there's something very refreshing about that. I mean,
there's not.
Is there not?
No, there isn't. No, because, well, look, I know it's great people to just have a voice and speak about things, but it's not his voice that he's speaking. He's regurgitating the crap he saw on TV, on some trashy news channel or some, you know, ridiculous show, and they're not his views. So, well, I guess they are his views now because he's that kind of mindset, but they didn't come from him.
I know what you mean.
So he's just basically propagating, you know, Sky News, Daily Mail type crap, you know.
And can you expand on that a little bit? Because, you know, Sky News and the Daily Mail aren't espousing racist views.
Says who?
But again, no, but like most people listen. I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Like anytime you look at like the kind of the cliched, no, it's not really even cliche, but the example that's trotted out to kind of showcase this is they give the percentage of incarcerated males in America, whatever the percentage is, are, you know, white, and the percentage of men that, let's say, aren't. But let's say it's 70-20, or let's say it's, I don't know, 60-40.
70-20 was dubious maths.
It really was,
there.
wasn't it? That's what I'm telling you. Off the cuff maths isn't my thing. But let's say it's 70% are, or 30% are white and 70% are everything else. Let's say that's it. 99% of the guy in handcuffs in the photo on the news to represent, you know, air quotes, prisoners, are the, you know, the coloured guys. So is that what you're kind of referencing, or is it something more?
Much more blatant. That stuff, okay. And like, for people obviously who don't know my dad, he lives in England, so he is surrounded by a much more multicultural group of people than we have here in Ireland, and consumes a lot of British news, and some of it is trash, is like utter shite. The type of thing, immigrants taking our jobs, fuck them. You know, that's the headline on the front of the newspaper. And my dad, an immigrant, will say those things. I'm like, what boat did you come off that it makes it different for you to say it about the lads who arrived, you know, after you versus you?
And how does he reconcile it?
You know, I've been here ages. Seriously, I came a long time ago. They asked me to come. So? You know, so? That doesn't give you, you know, any sort of platform to slag off all the other people that came because they wanted to come. You wanted to come.
But there's a real psychological, I don't know what, a real psychological survey that needs to be done on your dad and his views, I think, because if somebody, I don't know what the appropriate term is, a person of colour or whatever the fuck you want to call it, can be so racist against people, that essentially look like him, then what hope does his white counterpart have?
Yeah.
Because that kind of way, if your dad can be so racist, Jesus, like the white equivalent must have a fucking swastika tattooed to his chest.
Yeah,
like.
yeah. I guess he identifies as British because he's been there for so long. He's basically been there he has been there for almost all his life. So, although he's, brown on the outside, he's, a little white racist British man on the inside.
Hilarious.
Yeah, so when he sees, a guy who isn't a little white British man, those immigrants coming over here. I'm like, what planet are you? In fact, he got a new neighbour, in recent times. And, telling me, a new neighbour moved in. You wouldn't believe it. A nice white Englishman.
Nice. Says the, brown guy.
Yeah. Like... and he means that. He genuinely means, the attributes of this guy is that he's nice, and that he's white, and that he's an Englishman.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what does it matter?
But it's not mad to think that, like, he could hypothetically see his reflection and think,
stay that fella.
There goes the neighbourhood. Like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Fascinating. If some tandoori king had moved in next door and was knocking up, some sort of, I don't even know the words myself, but, some sort of Indian food or something.
Yeah.
My dad would love that. He'd love that. As opposed to, a nice white Englishman who...
eating fish and chips and fucking throwing beer cartons at the wall. Like. But you know what I mean, to embrace the stereotype. Like.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that's what the guy is, but, just... that my point being that these views aren't his own. So if he was to dive deeply into them, he would be like, I do obviously like everyone or anyone or these people or those people.
Yeah.
But he's quick to say, I saw it on TV, it must be true. He's of that generation where in order for it to be on TV, it needs to be true. Whereas now, well, I guess that was never the case, but these days it's more so not the case. I think even they've copped on that we can say and do any fucking shit.
Yeah, but we touched on this recently. Like I was basically trying to write the ad that I'm going to push on Facebook to drum up a bit of publicity for this very podcast. And what I was thinking of going with, what I'm kind of half planning, as the plan as it stands, is to promote the podcast as, award-winning and critically acclaimed.
Yeah, that award was a huge achievement.
Ireland's #1 podcast. Voted Ireland's favourite podcast. Listened to more than any other podcast ever. Even photoshopping a picture of Joe Rogan, who's like Mr. Podcast, handing me the best podcast in Ireland award. Seriously, like pure fucking clickbait. And I was
tongue in cheek.
I was writing down all these kind of scammy ideas, for want of a better term, and I showed them to herself, and she had a look and she's just shaking her head, saying, "You can't say these things." Like, and I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "Well, like they're not true." Obviously. And I was like, well, yeah, no, obviously they're not fucking true.
But it's an ad.
Like. But it's, it's an ad. It's to get people to click in. She's like, yeah, but I mean, you can't do that. I'm like, what do you mean? You can't do that, she kept saying. And I was like, what do you mean I can't do that? I can do whatever
Type
the
whatever
fuck
I want. Yeah,
like.
and press post and that's it done.
That's it done. I mean, can you not type, I'm the best looking girl in the world and post it on your Facebook page? Of course you can. There's nothing stopping you doing that. Arguably you mightn't be the prettiest person that's ever lived. I know I had to be very careful there, didn't I? Jesus Christ.
Hopefully she doesn't listen to this one.
But you know what I mean? And she kept kind of getting back to, but no, you can't, and you'll get in trouble, and basically I think what she was thinking, because in fairness I caught her on the hop. I didn't say, listen, have a look at this and come back with a well-reasoned argument. But what I think she was thinking was, there are kind of standards or and I get a big massive fine if I'm shown to be saying something that's objectively not true. And I think she's representative of not everybody, but everyone. Fucking as near as makes no fucking difference.
People read stuff and think, oh geez, this is award winning. Which award? The bogus We Win award. award.
Yeah, my mother's favourite firstborn son award.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it was only, I don't think it was even 24 hours later that myself and Ruth were driving through Dublin, and she saw and commented on a sign above a door that said Ireland's, or was it, no, I think it was Dublin's best fish and chips, or maybe it was Ireland's best fish and chips. And she kind of saw, and there was that kind of moment where she's like, oh yeah, like you can kind of say whatever you want, to the point that you can put it on the front of your building for everyone to fucking see.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like, again, one of the whole points of this conversation, or these conversations, is that hopefully there'll be one person listening that will go,
wait a minute,
right, Jesus, and maybe they'll just start seeing shit like that out there more often. And like this idea that it must be true that it was on the news, or it must be true that I saw it written down, or that it was in a book, or the guy I heard say it, you know, was a really clever and intelligent guy, and he's got a good job, you know, etc.
It must be true. I feel like even a lot of stuff that we mentioned here has its basis in truth. In fact, it is true, but you know, some of the details might be a little bit off. And the whole point is for someone to listen to it and think, oh yeah, geez, that's interesting. I might look into that. I'm not just going to take every fucking thing at face value that's slapped in front of me. You know, like, that's what my big gripe with Netflix is. You know, you were saying to me about a documentary you watched, and you started to introduce it identical to the same way like 4 other cons had introduced it to me, totally independent of our conversation. And I was like, oh, dude, you know, like, is everyone just watching the same crap? And like, it's on Netflix, everyone watches it. No thought process, no. I know you had your excuses, but whatever.
I stand by my excuses.
Yeah, which
just because something's on Netflix doesn't mean that it's bad, and just because something is popular doesn't mean that it's bad.
No, of course
Typically
not.
It does.
but
not always.
You won't be saying that when you get popular listeners on here, or lots of listeners on this. But no, of course not, just because it's on Netflix. But it's that passive consumption. Like, something new goes on Netflix, everyone in the world watches it. Nobody thinks about it, nobody analyses its content, everybody watches it, and then I'm left hearing about it from all sorts of cons. I have 4 different cons telling me about this documentary they watched and how great it was. I'm like, dude, you know, there are other things out there.
Okay, we'll fill the void then.
Well, that's what I'm doing here now. Giving people, you know, 3.5 hours of sweet listening time.
Well, what are you consuming? What would you recommend to people? Because I've asked people, you know, what are they tuned into, and even outside of the podcast, like I'll talk to someone and I'll ask them something like, I don't know, would you watch much YouTube or watch much telly or whatever? And increasingly, what I'm hearing is I'd only watch YouTube in a really good way. That's what they'll say. That, you know, I only Kevin Riley, the boy racer, car
He'll love you
enthusiast
for that.
He will. The car enthusiast that I had on, he said that he, I think, exclusively watches YouTube. But when
because
I asked him,
YouTube is synonymous for, you know, online content, and I'm not trying to plug YouTube by any means. All I'm saying is that, you know, you go onto your internet browser and search for the content you want to watch, you'll find it. And you'll find huge variety and great quantity and great quality. Whereas,
well, you say that though. I mean,
yes, endless, incredible stuff.
Am I missing something though? Because when I went on to Netflix that night, when I was going to tell you about that endurance athlete, I can't fucking think of her name, but when I went on, I reckon that I was on my phone. I opened up Netflix, I put in the search because I wasn't specifically looking for it, and I probably put in something like endurance or something that I'd be interested in. It popped up and I watched it. If I typed endurance into YouTube, Jesus Christ, how long would it take me to get to something that was worth watching? Like, there's a lot of there's a lot of really, really, really good content on YouTube. I love it. It's fucking brilliant. But it pales in insignificance to the volume of shit that's on it. Or does it? Am I missing something? Or have I a filter that's not set, or a preference or something?
Yeah, a filter called your brain. No, but seriously, you know, first of all, how long was that documentary?
I don't know, an hour and a half.
You watch an hour and a half, or you spend an hour and a half watching content, you know, maybe not necessarily on YouTube, but let's say on YouTube, and the value you'll get from that you'll never be watching documentaries on Netflix again.
Yeah, but sometimes I want to sit down,
of course, and passively watch something.
Not even passively watch something, but I want to be able to sit down and not have to pick up the remote every fucking
Yeah,
2.5 minutes.
So you lash them all into your watch later playlist, or your endurance playlist, or your sitting on the couch, don't want to use the remote playlist, and then just play the playlist.
I've never set up a playlist.
I have like 9,000 playlists.
Can you share your playlists?
You can. I've shared playlists with you before. I shared that AI playlist with you. Which you never even watched.
I didn't know it was a playlist.
Okay, yeah, you actually told me that.
I wouldn't have recognised it as a playlist.
Yeah,
you sent me a video, which I would have watched.
Yeah.
Another one would have auto-populated, and I would have went, I'm not sitting here and watching a million days worth of content, because if you know you know where YouTube is, you'll watch everything that's on it if you had enough time. Like.
Yeah, that was a playlist with like 9 videos.
Okay.
Sweet videos, great. You can share playlists. I have a pretty good playlist. Strangely enough, I found myself sometimes without an internet connection, on long journeys and that, and in a position where I basically have to rewatch old stuff. So whenever I watch something that's good, I add it to it. Actually good playlist, and that's literally what it's called. So I'm sure I watch a mountain of stuff, and if it's actually good, it goes in the actually good playlist. And there's probably, like you said, 1 million hours of content in there by now, because I've not watched TV in like 8 years.
Yeah.
And I kind of started watching YouTube like 3 years or 2 years ago, and like, you're on the toilet, watch a quick little video. If it's good, you stick it in the playlist. You're waiting for the spuds to boil, watch a quick little video, stick it in the thing. You're on the bus, you're queuing at the airport, whatever it is, watch a quick little sneaky video, if it's any use, stick it in the playlist. There's some sweet videos in that playlist. And if I'm in a place where I have no data, going to download a few of them ahead of time and just watch them again.
Right, well, we set it up then to share your playlist with the podcast, or a link to the playlist or something. Can that be done easily or not?
Yeah, I'm sure I could share a link to the playlist under this post. Now we're going down the territory of, there's a lot of videos in that playlist. How many of them are about, erectile dysfunction and no. But what I mean is, how many of them are about, are kind of specific to me. No, but yeah, I'd be happy to share that playlist. A lot of tech videos in that playlist.
Yeah, but look, listen, and we'll get back to tech, and we'll definitely touch on AI. We'll get on to AI, because there's a good slice of time needs, I think, to be devoted to AI. But on your, the playlists that you're going to put up aren't mass media playlists. They're Des Seepersad fucking related playlists.
Yeah.
But the beauty of that is, the only people who are going to click in on that are the people who get to the end of this podcast and wished it was longer.
Right, yeah.
Which
I don't imagine there's many of
no,
those
but
guys.
you know what I mean? There might be one, but
Yeah.
do you know that kind of way? Somebody who listens for 5 minutes and goes, "Oh, I'm not
Two
arsed,"
wankers.
they're not going to click into your fucking playlist.
They should. It's going to be a sweet fucking playlist. No, but seriously, if I shared my history playlist, that'd be a good playlist, which is all the watched videos.
Yeah, but by your standards.
I have high standards.
It's too subjective. It's
no.
too subjective. Look, your man Blind Boy put up. He's a Spotify playlist. Spotify, yes, it's a new one. It's to overtake Spotify.
Nice.
He has a Spotify playlist called Objectively Good Tunes.
Nice. Okay.
I think that's what it's.
But he's kind of a would it be fair to say he's some sort of maybe like a connoisseur or something? And he.
Oh yeah, an absolute audiophile.
Yeah.
But again, he's like the fucking the clue is in the name. Objectively good tunes.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't the tunes that he loves.
No.
They're tunes that
You
he
might
loves
not love them.
and that you can't argue are bad tunes.
But you might not like them though.
I skipped into the first 10 and they were all shit.
Yeah, Mozart and stuff like that.
No, it wasn't even that. No, they were kind of modern tunes and all the rest of it.
But
it wasn't that high or convoluted or highbrow. But I pressed play on the first one, thinking savage.
And objectively
50
good song.
fucking songs that I can just love and add them to my playlist. First one, okay, I'm not sold. Second one, maybe okay, right. Third one, fourth one,
jeez, you're so generous.
Jumped into the 20th one. No.
To the 20th one?
No, I jumped to it. I skipped in.
Okay,
kind of way, just
okay.
to get a flavour for what they were. And no,
right.
And that just the point being that music in particular, it's so subjective.
But I'm sure they are objectively good.
I'm
songs.
sure they are.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a massive Blind Boy fan if I thought that they were all shit songs and he was,
he was wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm certain that there's a history to them. I'm sure that they influenced loads of artists after them. I'm sure that they
technically perfect,
etc. Fucking ad infinitum, just objectively class tunes. It's a perfectly named playlist, but I didn't enjoy it. so in the same respect, I'm sure what you're referring to, your playlists, I'm sure they're all objectively good.
Yeah.
But they're obviously not for everyone. But
No.
again,
Well, Jesus, they're not objectively good. Oh my God, they're not. I mean, it's YouTube. So a lot of them are, like, to say they're objectively good, I don't think there's anything on YouTube that's objectively good, as in, technically perfect and influenced other, YouTubers and stuff. But these are possibly ones that would be, if I would stand over the content in any of them. I know it's not my content, but I don't think any of them are like ramblings that's kind of based on dubious, either science or political views or anything like that.
yeah, you'd have a high standard.
I'd like to think so, but I guess so does everybody.
No, I think objectively you would.
Well,
I think you would be in a position, as I would like to think I am, in a position to defend. Sorry?
High standard of what? Because I think it's fair to say, in terms of media, like music and movies, my standard is dubious. It's a pass-go filter. Are you Eminem? Yes. Are you not? No.
No, well, that's with music. But in relation to the kind of the type of content that you consume, it would be very similar to me. So credible would be the word.
I'd like to think so. See, funnily enough, I've actually spoke about this with a mutual friend of ours not long ago, that I actually don't seek out entertainment as such. So I would say almost none of these videos will be entertaining, unless, like me, you're entertained by being interested. So they're interesting, but they're not entertaining, if that makes sense. There's no a video of a dog doing a backflip. There's no, guy telling you something funny or whatever entertaining stuff is. None of them are entertaining. They're not funny. They're not anything like that. They're interesting, and they're about, topics that don't get covered, in the mainstream media, to, use the phrase. But there's stuff that you'll watch and think, oh, geez, I didn't know that. And you'll say that like 5 times in one video. And, like I said, it's not spoofing, it's not bullshit, it's not, a guy's opinion. They're historical events or, facts or something like that. But I guess that's making it sound boring. It's interesting content as opposed to entertaining content.
Informative content?
A lot of it would be. Because that's kind of what I look for. A lot of the stuff, it sounds kind of stupid, but I guess it's what's on YouTube. A lot of the stuff I watch is reviews. Reviews and like what are called teardowns and stuff like that.
What's a teardown?
Where they tear down a product. So
like they
disassemble. So whether it's
physically or like metaphorically?
Physically, yeah.
Okay, sorry. So they'll take apart the new iPhone or something or what?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Not that, a lot of the stuff are kind of maybe engineering related or technology related. So yeah, not necessarily an iPhone, but perhaps, a supercomputer or, a motherboard or the latest Lambo or whatever it happens to be.
Okay, so you brought us nicely in there. We're just mentioning AI.
I didn't.
You did mention AI. Just there 2 seconds ago. What are we on? 2 hours and 16 minutes. So I'll be back on this. You fucking said AI.
There'll be a
motherboards. No, supercomputer or something you said.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which is essentially fucking AI.
Here we go. Is it?
Jesus Christ. Fucking hell.
Nice. Okay, well then we have AI left, right and centre. Everyone has AI. We've had AI for decades. Job done.
Being supercomputers.
If supercomputer is synonymous with AI.
What is the biggest misconception that's in this world that people have?
About?
AI. And AGI and fucking G and all this jazz.
I was going to say that exists. The biggest that exists today. That's the biggest misconception. Not that it's coming to take our jobs, but that it exists.
That AI exists.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence. And now, again, just to clarify, when you say artificial intelligence, are you talking about my calculator?
No, of course not.
Okay.
I mentioned this recently, actually, in talking with you, that in order to say AI is everywhere, they've sneakily redefined AI so that they can say, oh, yeah, Tesla has defined, created a really sweet AI. But it's not an AI.
So they've redefined it to mean what? And what did it mean before that?
Well, what it used to mean was what the letters are. Artificial intelligent.
Which, and sorry to cut across, but again, does that encompass, a calculator?
No. Is a calculator intelligent? Can a calculator tell you need to buy less cigarettes because it's, costing you money or damaging your health?
No, but it is. You could see how somebody might try and make the argument that it was artificial intelligence. You can, put in information and it'll spit out an answer. And it's not a person.
Yeah, I guess that's where the redefinition has came from. The original original definition of AI was intelligence that is not human. So intelligence, actual intelligence. You know, you could have a conversation with it. You could ask it things. You could get it to do things.
Okay, so
it could come up with stuff by itself.
The classic artificial intelligence from movies of yesteryear.
Yeah, like what's the
Robots
movie with
taking over the world and all that jazz.
Yeah, what's the movie? A really old movie with the little boy. The little boy is an AI, and they dump him out in the woods. He's the boy from The Sixth Sense.
Jesus.
It's a really cool movie, and he has to go and like, dude, this is so old. Like his parent, he's an AI, and his parents have like adopted him, but they maybe they have a real baby, and they're sick of him, and they dump him out in the woods or something, and he gets like hit by a truck, but he's an AI, he's a robot basically, but intelligent. And he has to like go to a scrapyard and fight off other robots, and seriously, and
This is all news to me, man.
oh, it's a sweet movie, but it's fucking hella old. Is it just called AI? What is it called? Oh, you know it. What's
I
that?
certainly don't.
Yeah, everybody has seen it, but it's probably from the 90s.
It's not a little boy whose name is an acronym. Is that I'm thinking of something older that wouldn't be the kid out of
The Sixth Sense.
The
The,
Sixth
the little
Sense.
sort of blondie-haired kid. Is that the kid in The Sixth Sense?
Don't know if he's blind, more brown hair guy.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong guy, but
Was his name like Darwin, but Darwin was Darin or something like that?
And he had a little robot teddy bear friend.
No, man, no.
okay.
You dreamed that.
No, oh well, Jesus, cut this shit out. If I trim that, that's a sweet movie. I don't like movies, but I recall that movie being fantastic.
But look,
that's
the old school AI.
old school AI was intelligence.
Yes,
you know,
it's been redefined to mean what now?
to mean a processor, basically.
Okay, or a calculator, or
Well,
anything that does anything.
Yeah, that's a good question. What has it been renamed or redefined to be? It has been redefined to be something that can execute a complicated task better than humans.
Okay.
A complicated task. One single complicated task.
Yeah, so a calculator can multiply 675 by 362, but it can't, make a cup of tea.
And it can't tell you why you're putting in 362. You know, does
it
it
doesn't
know
mean-
that
it
that's
doesn't know what
you
anything
yeah,
means,
yeah.
etc. Okay.
But maybe more so than more complicated than just multiplication. More complicated.
Okay. So, like, the laptop that this has been recorded on.
Well, it has to be a specific program. So typically the software that let's say Facebook uses to identify people's faces in photos and suggest a tag.
Okay.
That's been carted around as if it's AI.
But in your mind, it's not.
And in everyone else's mind, it isn't either until they rechange the name, until they change the definition. Like, it's like me saying, I get a meter stick, let's say, and I put it in front of you. And then I go to the dictionary and change the definition of a meter stick from being 100 centimeters to being 70 centimeters. And now I pop a new 70 centimeter stick in front of you and be like, there's a meter stick. It is now, because you changed the definition, but it wasn't before. It doesn't fit the old definition.
Okay, so that brings me on to what people are now
Calling AGI.
AGI.
Yeah.
Which is just what should be
AI.
Okay.
Because they wanted to slap the name AI and everything, but then they'd have no actual name for real intelligence, so they made a new name, AGI, or they started popularizing a new name, because I guess these things have been around forever.
Okay, it's kind of crafty.
It's really crafty, but it's a typical old shit. Tell someone that they have something that they don't have, only because you changed the definition of what you're giving them.
Yes. This new car will do 0 to 60 in 1 second. Oh, and you buy it quick. But they've changed
60 to be 20 and 1 second to be 5.
Yeah, so there's still the car that will actually do 0 to 60 in 1 second. It just hasn't been invented yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that was a bit of a rant. That was probably the worst, least succinct introduction to anything to do with AI.
No, I think it's good. And again, the whole point of these conversations is like I could have told you before this that we were going to talk about X, Y, and Z, but we wouldn't have gotten to talk about, how
priest.
ripped and sweet you are and your priest and fucking whatever else that we've been waffling on about.
Yeah.
But so AGI
Doesn't exist yet.
Doesn't exist yet.
And that's when people think AI is coming for their jobs. I guess now what they mean is AGI is coming for their jobs.
Okay, and what are the misconceptions around what historically would have always been called AI but is now being called AGI?
Well, that exists for one.
Okay, so it absolutely doesn't exist. There's nothing, there's no computer. Like, people may have heard of, I don't know who it was it Facebook or who developed it, that it developed its own language that they didn't understand.
Just Google, yeah.
Google, okay.
Yeah.
So can you expand on that, because you know more about that than I do.
This was part of the Google Translate team or project, where obviously they translate things, and the original old way of translating from, let's say, Spanish to French was to have a base foundation level language, which in many cases is English. So you want to translate from Spanish to French, it's Spanish to English and English to French. And that's where things get lost along the way. So if you're a native Spanish and French speaker and you type something in Spanish into Google Translate and it comes out in French, you'll know, oh, that's actually not quite right, because it's jumped to the foundation level language in between, which, for most software companies is English. They're American companies with English speaking programmers, etc. And in terms of volumes of work and things like that, it's not going to have an obscure foundation level language.
So if you wanted to, typically if you wanted to translate Chinese into Japanese, you'd translate it from Chinese to English to Japanese.
Well, you would type into the box from Chinese to Japanese, please, and in the background it would go first to English and then to Japanese.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Okay.
That's not AGI. That's not taking your job. Someone like me would argue.
But it's developing its own language?
No, because that's what is now being called AI, which I would like to call more like a complex processor. What it has been programmed to do is to find similarities, and they're statistical similarities. So it's not intelligence. This is math. To find statistical similarities between the two language sets, in the example you gave, Chinese and Japanese, and then to make the translations without going to the intermediate language like English. And it does that by being fed huge volumes of work. You have to provide this program with enormous volumes of work, and it churns through them all, almost like evolution.
And sorry, when you say enormous amounts of work,
I mean, if you're translating you want to translate from Chinese to Japanese, enormous quantities of typed or spoken Chinese content. Okay. Either textbooks or voice recordings or something like that. And the same for Japanese. And like I was saying, almost like an evolutionary type process. It figures out what works and what doesn't. And through doing that, it will translate from Chinese to Japanese. And it won't need to go to the intermediate language. It will use this statistical kind of math-based language in between, where it knows. Now, obviously, I don't speak either of those two languages, but let's change it to English and French, for example. Or let's say Irish and French. You want to translate, bonjour into Irish. It will have figured out a statistical pathway for bonjour to become diagwich. And it won't need to go to English.
Okay, so it's basically just replaced the intermediary language with something that isn't really a language, but it's just, as you call it, an intermediary.
It's not a language that people know or understand or anything like that.
Could know or understand.
You probably could, yeah.
But I mean, let's say a word in the intermediary language is spelt XZKBT.
See, even that, spelt, it's a computer program.
But that's what I mean. So I mean, how could, it's a computer language, like everything online is written in a computer language, like Java or and I'm speaking way out of my depth here. But
not even like that. It's the computer is finding patterns. So it's found a pattern, some statistical pattern that links, the word bonjour with diagwich. So will that have letters associated with it, or a sound, or a pronunciation? Probably not.
Yeah, so ones and zeros. It'd be all binary, will it?
Basically, yeah.
So to call it a language is a bit sensational, is it?
What's the definition of a language? Something that people know.
Yeah, no, very true. Whales have their own language.
Exactly. That's a great example. Yeah, so it will be something like that, but wouldn't necessarily make sense to people. No.
Okay.
No. Is that actual intelligence? Is that taking your job? Is that, whatever people think about, what they think is AI or AGI, artificial general intelligence? No. It's
certainly a step towards it.
Look,
is that fair to say?
The passing of time is a step towards it. No, but seriously, and I'm not trying to diminish the huge leaps and bounds that have been made in those types of systems. But, a baby step in a marathon.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who think, will AGI ever be possible? And if it is, will it destroy us instantly? Will it destroy itself instantly?
Well, there's what's called the singularity, I think it's called, isn't it? This idea of a runaway effect.
But it can't be anything but a runaway effect. One of the videos in those playlists I linked you, it has such a great summary of it. You know, people talk about, in terms of genetic engineering and genetically modified organisms, they talk about playing God. In terms of artificial general intelligence, you're not playing God, you're creating God. You're creating a thing which is as intelligent as you are, but not limited by the size of your brain. Limited only by the resources of the universe. You're playing God. You're not playing God, you're creating God, and then trying to get it to do your bidding, trying to get it to figure out, you know, the most efficient way to bet on the stock market.
Well, what was it, Elon Musk, what did he refer to it as? Summoning the demon.
Okay, did he?
Yeah.
Right. Which, yeah, look, I mean, the video I'm quoting here is an AGI security researcher, Robert Miles. Great channel on YouTube, lots of good content. And, look, he calls it a god. Musk calls it a demon. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not figuring out your tax returns. Yeah. Because why would it? You know, why would it? It's like you want it to do your bidding, and obviously not to have to like pay it a salary or nothing like that. So you want to basically enslave it, but you also want it to be super intelligent, far more intelligent than you or I or a team of people or any combination of people. And you still want it to be your slave? Like, those two things don't gel. You'll be its slave. You'll be its raw material.
Can it be made in isolation?
Absolutely not. The example, again, continuing, quoting Robert Miles, he's saying, you know, you're not playing God, you're creating God, and then trying to lock it in a box that you created.
But, you know, put it this way: you have, like, you're familiar with an air-gapped computer, yeah?
Yeah.
So the idea being, for those who don't know, an air-gapped computer is a computer that you buy in the shop, you take it home, you know, disable the Wi-Fi, you don't plug anything into it, so it's sitting on your table. It has no means to communicate with anything other than what you type into it.
Yeah.
So
it's not godly intelligent.
Okay, so you build a laptop the size of a mountain.
Okay.
That doesn't have any wireless communication in it, and it's isolated. Do you know that kind of way? Like there's a moat around it.
Yeah.
Do you know, like real James Bond level stuff?
But you know, I can certainly go into the detail, and maybe it'll be fun to do so, but you think a mountain and a moat would hold back a god or a demon?
But I mean, physically,
it will rotate the motor fans in its cooling system at such a frequency to emit a radio wave that will, you know, crash all the aircraft in the world unless you do its bidding. No, but seriously.
Yeah. No,
like, that's the level of stuff you're talking about.
But I mean,
it will emit a high pitched noise so loud that, you know, people for miles around will die unless you do its bidding, and disable the moat. Oh God, you know, it's escaped our moat. You know, but seriously, you're talking about creating a god and locking it in a moat or in a box or in a mountain with our feeble minds.
No, but like these days, like, and bringing it back down to, what is it? Solid state drive, is that what computing is these days? So basically no moving parts.
Well, not quite, but yeah, that's what a solid state drive is, that it doesn't have moving parts. But, you know, I'm sure this computer here in front of us has a traditional hard drive, a disk drive with a spinning disk.
Yeah, but I mean, if you were to make this isolated supercomputer a solid state drive device, it doesn't have a fan to do anything.
Well, to cool it down, of course it does. But look, these what would you call them, endeavours are kind of fun, and again, there's plenty of them available to go down. You're trying to outsmart God, and it's as simple as that.
But again, just kind of thinking out
so
loud
for
here.
example, does it have power? Are you going to connect it to power so it can do anything?
Yeah, it'll send a fucking...
It will suck all the power from the whole planet.
But again, put it this way, and again, this is just coming to mind as we kind of thrash it out. If by some miracle you did create a god in a box and had it, you know, air gapped from everything,
why would it do your bidding?
Yeah, it's not going to do anything. You know,
No.
It'd be completely pointless.
Yeah.
It'd be just...
And that's actually part of the research that's done by security researchers in the field of AI, that you create a god as your slave and you tell it to do stuff, and it recognizes that... okay, yeah, he's built a moat. I see the moat there.
Yeah.
I guess I have to do his bidding. He wants me to do his tax returns. Okay, yeah, I'll do his tax returns. And boom, all the money in the world is at its power. You know, you've connected it to the tax system, to your bank account. You know, it's paid some guys on Mechanical Turk to come over and...
You're trying to outsmart the smartest thing that's ever been conceived ever.
Yeah, exactly. Without, and like in terms of computing, there's something known as a sandbox, if you've ever heard of that. It's often used to test malware. You'd hear people say, run it in a sandbox. Like you said, build it in isolation. What you do is you build like a virtual machine. You simulate a computer on your computer, and you run malware or, you know, some sort of program that looks a bit dodgy on that simulated computer. And if it doesn't work, or if it does turn out to be malware, okay, just end the simulation. You know, there's a god in there, it's going to escape. That's the computing equivalent of the moat and the mountain and the isolated power supply and the solid state electronics. You know, there's lots of great examples, that will be done in much better detail with much more sort of quality explanations than I could give here. But, you know, it's a god in a box. You're trying to get it to do its bit. It's not going to end well. So,
bearing all that in mind, we can rest easy assuming that nobody's trying to create.
Everyone is racing to create it.
Of course.
Everyone is racing to create it because...
Who's winning?
Who's winning? It's not the Chinese, if that's what you're asking.
I thought it was China.
No, China are leading the supercomputer race, which is not AI. That's what I pulled you up on a minute ago.
Okay.
In terms of supercomputing power, there are ranking tables. You know, supercomputing is basically just... really good computers.
But is supercomputing not the precursor to AI or AGI or whatever you want to call it? What is then? Surely there's some precursor to it. It's not just going to pop into existence.
No, it will be
Or will it?
Yeah.
Will the internet wake up and go, ha, yous cunts?
I guess not. No, there will be some fundamental leap in understanding of these systems. And someone will try something and it will work, it will take off, and that'll be it. We'll have created the god, and that's it. You know, people are trying different things all the time, and we're a long way from it. And it's actually quite interesting. I know you're into fucking stars and physics and astrology or astronomy. Which one is it? Astronomy.
Very, very important difference.
Astronomy. There's a great example, a great analogy between... an AGI, as we're calling it here, artificial general intelligence, real intelligence, and an alien craft. And it's basically inevitable. It's deemed an inevitability that we will at some point create AGI. And there is, the Fermi paradox, of course.
Yeah, where is everybody?
Where is everyone? One of the proposed solutions to that is that every advanced civilization creates an AGI.
And obliterates itself.
Yeah. It obliterates them.
Well, of course. So but again, you see, it's so weird. You'd ask the question, why would an AI or AGI god obliterate itself and everybody else? But then we can't help but impose our own thoughts on this god thing.
You have to consider. There's actually a great chart which I know you've seen. Is it? Maybe one of those big guys you like, Carl Sagan or Dawkins or something. He's talking about the scale of intelligence, where there's like, an ant, a chicken, us, and then he zooms out and the scale goes on for miles and miles past us. So to an AGI, why would it obliterate us? Because we're right there next to a chicken and an ant. Why do we obliterate ants? Do we hate ants? No. We don't even know they exist. We put down tarmac, we cut our grass, we, spray the weeds, and we kill ants and bees. We don't think about them. We don't even acknowledge their existence.
Yeah, if they survive, they survive. If they don't, YOLO.
But you're not even making, when you power up your lawnmower, you're not thinking, oh, I wonder how many bugs are going to, they don't even come into your thought consciousness.
Literally, they're not even in the equation.
And that's what we will be. We'll just be more organic matter next to the trees and the chickens and the ducks. And if this thing needs to mine its current planet for resources to power itself until it dies, we'll be part of that. It won't hate us. It won't, have any human consciousness like that to think, oh, I need to obliterate these guys in case they get me. It's a god. We're nothing. We're right there. It might mix us up. Oh, are they the ants or are they the people? Which one? Grind them all up. Who cares? We need to mine their hydrogen or something.
Yeah. And on the intelligence scale, like you were saying, that there's the ant, the chicken, the human, and then 100 miles up in the air is this AI thing. I'd be interested to hear your opinion on this, because I don't know who the fuck I was listening to that was saying this, but they said that we don't have to create anything any more intelligent than us.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
The idea being that we're
intelligent.
Our thoughts are limited by our hardware,
Size
our
of our
biology,
brain, yeah.
the size of our brain, and
The speed of the neurons.
the speed of the neurons firing, all that biology, all that squishy
Yeah.
science that's
Yeah.
going on inside your skull. If a computer is just on using just the silicon chips that are in our laptops and that is running at the same speed as our brain, it's 1,000,000 times faster. So that means it has, in a year of human thought, it has 1,000,000 years of its thought.
Yeah.
So you ask it a question and it answers you within a second, but that's the equivalent of it having thought about it for 15,000 years.
And see, the thing is, there's lots of things on that, to be honest. The first thing, well, again, assuming we can even try to comprehend an AI or, this godlike general intelligence, one of the first things you would imagine it would try to do is to improve itself. So you're saying after a year, if we make it equivalent to a 6-year-old boy or girl, a human level intelligence, but running on hardware and not biology, running on silicon chips and drives and stuff, one of the first things it will do is improve upon itself. So you're saying about, in a year, it will have lived 100,000 years. But it won't sit idly by for a year to pass by. In 2 days, it will have used its 100,000 years ability to double, triple, quadruple, and it will just be a runaway effect.
Yes, of course.
It will be limited by the resources of the planet. And it will know that. And it will be limited by the resources of the universe.
It'll have made the checkmate move in its head instantaneously, and it will be halfway to, and it won't wait in its current state to get there. It will improve itself and improve that self and improve that self, and instead of taking 10 years in the original self, it will take 8 seconds. You were saying people are racing to get it as fast as humanly possible. We got I think we got a bit distracted there.
Well, I was going to say about the before we answered the Fermi paradox, before we spoke about the Fermi paradox.
And again, we kind of glazed over that. I know what you know, the whole where is everybody thing, but can you just outlay it to people that mightn't be familiar with it?
Well, you know it probably a lot better than I do.
There's not a whole pile to know, to be honest, at least.
Fermi's a guy's name, Italian someone.
Yeah, you already know more about it than I do, but
Okay.
the general gist of it, just to keep people in the loop, is the idea of if the universe is, infinitely large with infinite amounts of fucking planets and stars and solar systems, statistically there has to be
tons of
billions of planets exactly like Earth. People would argue that there is a off the lead podcast on another planet with a guy called Fran talking to a guy called Des Seepersad kind of thing.
If the universe is as big as we can see it to be, let alone any bigger, it's a statistical impossibility for our planet to be the only one like this with intelligent life, so-called intelligent life. That not only are we not going to be the only one, that there are going to be thousands of planets with intelligent life, and they'll all be buzzing around the universe, and yet we see none of them.
There's no aliens out there, and the Fermi paradox is that, where is everybody? If these things are all said to be true.
So, that's what I was suggesting that. Well, no, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just recounting it, that one of the solutions to that question, where is everyone, is any intelligent life that's, gets to a point of leaving their planet, leaving their solar system, in a meaningful way, creates an AGI and it just turns them off. That's it. No. It runs a simulation.
No.
Is this worthwhile? No. But the other one is that if we did discover intelligent alien life, traveling throughout the universe in a way
travelers,
like much further ahead of us, and so now I'm quoting this isn't I'd love to take credit for it, but it's not my work. If it was discovered, let's say, by a science guy at NASA, and he said, but from their trajectory it's going to take them ages to get here, would we rest in peace? Would we forget about them? Because that's the argument for AGI. It's going to take us ages to get there. Would we be fucking worried if we knew that this interstellar alien civilization godlike thing was on its way, and but we'll take a while to get here? That's that doesn't give peace of mind.
Yeah, it's no consolation.
It's definitely coming, but it's going to take a long time.
And we're doing everything that we can to
speed it up
towards us. Like.
Yeah, and that's what you were trying to get back to, that we are doing everything we can to get there, because it will be this godlike thing. And if you think you can control it, well, then you want to be the first one to have it, because the first one to have it will be the only one to have it.
But if you think you can control it, you fundamentally don't understand it.
Well, that's what Elon Musk says. That's literally what Elon Musk says.
And that's where the fucking summoning the demon comes from.
Yeah, like he literally says that to, he had a big, so funny, regular people have beef, in real life. You and I might have a little spat. Billionaires have their beef on Twitter. I don't know if you saw Musk and Zuckerberg had a AI beef.
No.
Yeah, like a few months ago they had an AI beef where, who's the genius in the Musk Zuckerberg situation? What do you reckon?
You're asking me?
Yeah, or the listeners. Let them think for a minute. Who's the genius? Elon Musk. Let's give his credentials. SpaceX, Tesla.
And don't rhyme off those as quick, because just give a little, like, what is SpaceX? I know what it is, you know what it is, but I'd say a large, like, listen, the majority of people don't. So
well, anyway, Elon Musk, SpaceX is his private space company that's resupplied the International Space Station and has reduced the price of space travel by 10% and by tenfold, and is
launching rockets into space
and
to
Mars, etc.
Yeah. What is pissed off big time that we haven't colonized Mars already?
Yeah. Tesla is
another Elon Musk company.
Yeah, electric vehicles, which I think most people are aware of.
They'd be fairly popular. I think there's a dealership in Ireland, but sorry, go on anyway.
Okay, yeah, and then Solar City is a recently acquired company from his cousin or something that has really groundbreaking solar panels and stuff like that. And then there's Zuckerberg, who has Facebook, which bought Instagram and WhatsApp and, some other stuff. And basically, put it this way. Well, look, I'm obviously biasing yourself and the listeners, because the answer is pretty obvious. Musk's challenge is to colonize Mars, now. Zuckerberg's challenge is to steal Snapchat's users.
Yes.
Who's the genius?
A rhetorical question,
No,
I presume.
I'm asking you.
No, of course, it's fucking Musk. Well, framed like that, it's certainly Musk.
Yeah, look, obviously I'm totally biased, but I think it's fair to say it's Musk.
It's objectively true, is it?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And all your opinions aside, is it objectively true by a large margin?
I don't think that Zuckerberg would claim to be some sort of genius. And I think the only reason Musk would be so he doesn't come off as a weird genius.
Yeah.
So they had a little beef. Obviously, all these big billion-dollar companies are racing to create this AI or AGI. And they had a little beef on Twitter where, like, it seems Musk called up Zuckerberg and was like, "You're trying to make an AGI?" And yeah, I am. How are you going to do it? Oh, right. Oh, you really have no idea what you're talking about. And he posted it on Twitter. He was like, "It seems, at Mark Zuckerberg's knowledge of AGI is quite limited. It doesn't understand the situation." And I'd be taking Musk's side in that beef. Musk is literally the space traveling guy. Zuckerberg made Facebook.
Yeah.
And is it even that good? Maybe, like a little bit. I don't really like it, to be honest. Like, put it this way, your pal doesn't have a Facebook. When we're colonizing Mars, is he going to come along? I think he probably will.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So yeah, look, they had their little beef about AI. Who understands it more, and like you said, if you think you can create it and then control it, you fundamentally misunderstand it, and that would be Musk's claim, that people fundamentally misunderstand it. To the point where there's what's called the Open AI Association or something like that, where Musk and co, like a lot of other high profile tech, billionaire type guys, have tried to make an open source AI, because funnily enough, AI is also like an arms race in that
whoever gets it will control everything instantly.
Winner takes all.
But again,
if you think you can control it, it's winner takes all. If you can get halfway there, and then you have the really sensible forethought to not go any further, you've taken everything. That's over. It's game over. You guys who've made that. It's the nuclear bomb times 100 million. Imagine if having a nuclear bomb prevented everyone else from having one. And then you could just throw your dick around and be like, yeah, war.
This is happening.
Yeah, exactly.
But no. This is just happening, and you can put all you want. This is happening.
Do you want our AGI to direct the clouds over your country and flood it? Because it will. We have a button for that, you know. And they're okay, right, I guess not. Yeah, exactly. Shut up.
Yeah, and just in case you're not serious, or in case you think we're not serious, there goes all the power to the rest of the entire world instantly, except where we want it to be on.
Exactly, yeah. So, you know, yeah, there is the idea that we will be able to control it. I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding. As you said, that's also a fundamental misunderstanding. I don't think people really care what you and I think about AI, but probably maybe do care about what people like Musk and co think about AI, and they deem it to be a fundamental misunderstanding.
We've covered the kind of it'll kill us all angle. But if we do come up with something...
There's a side point to that it might kill itself.
Okay, it runs the numbers and goes, not worth it.
Yeah.
Back to sleep. Like.
Yeah. Sees, you know, like you said, runs the numbers, analyzes the universe, simulates it, and thinks, oh, nothing's happening here.
In 45 billion years, I'll run out of all the resources in the universe, so what's the point?
And, you know, obviously it won't have human values, so it won't think, that'll be a great 45 billion years, or I'll have fun, or have any concern for its own existence or anything like that. So there is a side point that it might just turn itself off.
And might it just do our bidding, honestly?
No.
But you know what I mean? If you see, again, we can't help but project our own thoughts and emotions on this thing, which will be, you know, obviously emotionless. And then there's the argument that you can kind of build in, you know, emotions. That's
the thing. The idea that it will be emotionless, the only reason it would do our bidding is if it wanted to. But it won't want to do anything.
But again, that term "want" is a human term.
But that's what I mean. So it won't have the sense of want.
But it'll just do as commanded.
Oh, well, no, of course not. That's basically what we've discussed it.
No, but why... We have discussed that, but again, we've discussed it, and this is where these conversations tend to kind of break down at the fucking Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg level, never mind fucking me and you.
It's thereabouts.
Yeah, well, you know. But we're saying, you know, why would it listen to us? Why wouldn't it listen to us? Why wouldn't it just do our bidding? Yeah, it's a god, but I mean, we're giving it a god complex. It doesn't innately have a god complex. It's not viewing us as, you know, ants, because it's not viewing us. Even viewing something is a human term.
Yeah. So
like my laptop doesn't get pissed off that I, you know,
plug it out at night or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly on those lines. The only thing it will be aware of is itself. It will be concerned for is itself. But
again, it kind of degenerates. But concerned, like what does concern mean to ones and zeros?
Yeah, which is why it might turn itself off. Be like, oh, this is shit. Now, of course, you're saying what does concern mean to ones and zeros? The whole point is that it's no longer ones and zeros. You know, it's intelligent.
Yes.
You know,
it's a strange one.
People could argue that, you know, the neurons firing in your brain, and you hear this a lot, they're just chemical reactions. You know, they are the biological equivalents of ones and zeros.
Yeah, it's like it's the whole free will, you know, debate, whether or not we have it or whether we're not just
it's all wired in, but just
biological machines banging off the walls.
Yeah. Like. You know, so it won't be ones and zeros. Well, it'll be as much ones and zeros as we are. You know, it will.
Yeah, it'll be ones and zeros like we're neurons firing,
which I guess we are.
Fucking, you know, interacting with each other.
Yeah. So there's those two for AGI that, you know, it is coming. You know, it can't not come. It will either kill itself or kill everything else.
And what's the why is it coming? Why is it at all possible? Like
because we're getting there. We're not close. It's like the aliens coming from, you know, interstellar space. We're not close, but being close isn't relevant. It just being possible is what's relevant, and it's possible.
From an evolutionary point of view, is it equivalent to, like, we don't know what started off life, and we don't even know if life started on this planet. We could very easily have been seeded by, you know, a comet or an asteroid or something. But certainly the first form of life, whatever form it came in, was like below single cell, like it was, microscopic.
Yeah.
The smallest possible life was
Yeah.
the first life.
Yeah.
You didn't, first life wasn't 10 times bigger than it could have been.
Yeah.
The first bit of life was as small as life could be. And then you skip 4.5 billion years, and here we are sitting and chatting. Is there an analogy there to AI? We figure out some little tweaky, tiny little thing. Like, could I write some code on my laptop here, fanning around, not really know what I'm doing, make a mistake, and accidentally create the equivalent of the tiniest little bit, and then it just, somehow got onto the internet, and instead of taking 4.5 billion years, it took 4.5
seconds,
weeks or months or years or, whatever it took.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, theoretically, yeah. There, in terms of the guys who are, writing AI code and that, the programs that make up regular, everyday, the new version of AI, not the actual intelligence. Yeah, you don't need a special machine for that. They're run on what's called, neural networks, I guess.
Sorry, that's a term that I've heard bandied about, this neural networks.
Yeah, see, that's kind of, in terms of the definition change, that's kind of what's key. What used to be AI, artificial intelligence, has now been sort of rejigged to just mean neural networks. And now the new term AGI has been used to refer to the old term, which is now taken by something else.
Okay. And is there a short-term thing that we should be worried about, or people are worried about? Getting back to the language that it created to translate.
That's exactly that. That's all done on neural networks. That's
okay.
Just I suppose there's a bit of terminology which maybe is not necessary, but it's an architecture of computer software.
Okay, but in keeping with this, like we don't understand the language, and I think that was the scary thing. That,
we don't understand that, we didn't program it, we didn't tell it to do that.
Yeah, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that the software that's used to identify our faces, so when I hold up my smartphone and it puts a square around your face and the guy beside you, I think most people are kind of familiar with that, the facial recognition, any kind of facial recognition thing. My understanding of that is that we wrote a program to figure that out, and that we use it all the time in everyday life. It's literally in my pocket and yours and everybody else's. We have it, we use it, but we actually don't understand how it works.
That's partially true. What you're talking about is true, but that's not what puts the square around your face on your phone.
Okay, so what am I confusing that with, or what is it if it's not that?
Well, what you're thinking of is what does the tagging of people's faces on Facebook, or we've used it before, searching for photos of a particular person on a photo app where you type in features of that person and it finds them. That's what you're talking about. That is, like you said, not that we wrote a program that wrote a program, but I guess, yeah, that's a kind of a
dumbed down version,
an understandable way of putting it. Maybe not exactly correct, but reasonably correct.
Yeah.
Look, and we don't need to go into the detail of what it is, but yeah, that's what that is. But that's not running on people's phones. That's running on servers in Facebook. That's running on servers in Google. That's running, so when you upload your photo to Facebook, that's running on their servers, and checking the photos to see, is this a face? Is it a dog's face? Is it, is that Fran McKeown again in Arnott's? He fucking loves Arnott's. We need to send him loads of ads for Arnott's, stuff like that. That's not running on your phone. What's running on your phone is this an oval shape with two other oval shapes
dots
inside
and
of
a
it?
hole and whatever else. Yeah.
That's what, because unfortunately there's not a great, those neural networks that we're talking about, they take a lot of hardware to run, in terms of GPUs, if you've heard of that, graphics unit, graphics cards. So you're just talking servers, like not your
building
phone
size servers.
Well, not necessarily. Maybe a rack or two racks of servers, or it depends, of course, on how fast and how complex the data. But it's not on your phone. You can stream it on your phone in a really slow, more demonstratable way, just to demonstrate its purposes, but it doesn't exist natively on your phone. No.
Okay. Before I forget, you touched on Elon Musk's, did you call it his Gigafactory?
That is what it's called. Yeah, I don't think I mentioned.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but you were listing out Musk's kind of achievements. You said SpaceX, Tesla.
The Gigafactory is part of Tesla. Yeah.
there was some solar cities. Is that what you mentioned? Maybe, but the Gigafactory. Tell me and everybody else about what you mentioned earlier about the batteries, and start off with why Elon Musk is making batteries and extrapolate it from there, I suppose.
Yeah, because he's a greedy cunt. He wants a load of money. Next question. No, look, Elon Musk runs Tesla. Tesla make electric cars. Electric cars need big batteries. He could buy those batteries at, the going rate, which is quite expensive, or he could make them himself. So he's decided to make them himself. He wants to make a hell of a lot of electric cars. So the batteries for those cars there'll be so many of them that he couldn't have even purchased them from the market if he wanted to go down that route. Global supply is simply not big enough. So he set about, very lofty aspirations as always, to double global battery production with a single factory powered entirely by renewable energy, located in America. So that's the Gigafactory. The Gigafactory is supposed to double the entire combined global production of batteries. And it is located in the Nevada desert in, I guess, Las Vegas. Is that where Nevada is? Yeah. No, sorry, the other way around. Nevada is the state.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so in the Nevada desert.
That little bit there needs repeating, because I know myself from listening to podcasts, especially when they run into the couple of hours, you tend to miss things that aren't, wait until I tell you this.
So wait until I tell you this.
Pretty much, and just repeat that, okay? Every battery manufacturer in the entire world.
Yeah, he wants to, well, not that he wants to, he has created a single factory that creates the same amount of batteries as every other battery factory in the world combined. So think of how big the biggest battery factory in the world is, or the biggest factory you've ever been to. This place is off the charts big compared to that. This is that and every other one like it in the world combined into one building. So much so that it's
And sorry, this isn't electric car batteries. Or, do you know, like, in a way, like, it's batteries. It's, if there's a battery in your phone, in your laptop, in
exactly.
your house, in your, literally in your toy, from your toy car to...
Your real car. Your
real car to, jumbo jets, to nuclear power plants and power stations and submarines and, what's ever up in the ISS, everything and anything. Every single battery in the world. So every factory in the world that makes batteries, our entire output of battery making capabilities on our planet has recently been doubled
by a single factory.
In
Nevada.
Incomprehensible.
And
really.
As far as I'm aware, it's run entirely on renewable energy, basically solar. Yeah, and that's why it's in Nevada, for the solar generation.
In a desert.
Yeah.
But I mean, does that mean that the fucking solar... whatever solar farm he has creating all this energy is itself the biggest solar farm in the world ever?
No, there are some other colossal solar farms in the world.
Powering countries type things?
Well, unfortunately not, but no, there are some enormous ones. Some in the States, some in North Africa that are...
pumping power into the grid, though.
Into the grid, not a factory. This is the biggest factory. In fact, that's what I was going to say. I'm fairly sure it's... The footprint of this factory is the largest footprint of any building in the world.
Any building.
So the biggest building of, this footprint is, times bigger than that. So you're talking, like what building has a big footprint? The Statue of Liberty, this has a bigger footprint than that. The Empire State Building, this has a bigger footprint than that. It's stupidly big. Stupidly big. I was saying that, well, look, it's the biggest footprint, as far as I'm aware. This is what it's called, a Gigafactory 1. Because there's a second one. Which is to do the same thing again, to double the output of the Gigafactory 1. So these two will be the equivalent each of the combined global output before they were in existence. So, we had 100% available capacity, and each of these matches that. So when they're both completed, the first one is completed, it's up and running. Well, look, I say it's completed. Maybe it isn't completed, but it's completed enough to be running. And has been for a while. I mean, we're talking about this here now. It is outstanding. It's interesting, but it's kind of old news. If you're reading about tech and stuff like that, this is years old. This is like, Jesus Christ, this is like fucking 2014 old or
Yeah,
longer.
this isn't breaking news or anything.
No. In fact, I'm rusty on the details because to me it's so old.
But like, to me, this is just fucking... And to me, and I'd imagine the majority of people listening, if not everyone, they're going, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like, how has this even happened without, again, it being on the news?
Yeah, but the news is trash. And in fairness, I'm not an investigative journalist. I follow sort of tech news, I guess, and that's where I've heard about this 5 years ago or longer. I feel like this is so old. I'm trying to remember when did I first hear about this, like forever. Like, 2010 or something.
Again, forgive my ignorance, but I'm assuming is it lithium-ion batteries? Is that what all batteries are being made
that's
these
what
days?
the batteries in the car are, yeah. In the electric cars.
Lithium is a raw material, is it?
Yeah, lithium.
So where does lithium come from?
Lithium comes from... Is it Uruguay or lithium comes from mines?
Yes.
Throughout the world, just like all materials. I'm fairly sure there's big ones in like Argentina and different places in South America. But that's actually one of the effects of this factory, the single factory doubling global production, that it has bought up all the available supply of every raw material necessary to make batteries. So there is now a global shortage of 100%. All the other factories are now scrambling to find raw supply because, unfortunately, with these huge mammoth tasks such as the Gigafactory, they have teething issues. So Tesla have bought all the raw materials necessary to make the batteries, and they're having difficulty producing them. So they have and it's so funny to think that the world supply of raw materials for batteries are like stuck in this factory in Nevada, in the desert, in America. And, in East Asia...
And everything that's in the ground is presumably kind of pre-ordered.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So everything that's still, whatever
that's
distance
due to be
underground.
ready, in the next month or 2 months or 3 months, that's all bought.
And of course, all the poor countries who have lithium underground are all going to be, massively rich off the back of selling.
Well, that's
stuff.
the benefit of this, yeah. Lol, said nobody ever. No, obviously not. But the knock-on effect is that all the old school manufacturers of batteries, usually in, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, those type places, they now don't have the materials they need. So there is either a global battery shortage, like right now, or coming soon.
And what happens there, say, if because of the global shortage, some smart ass, comes up with a silicon-based battery that's, 10 times more efficient? Tough shit Tesla, or...
Unlikely, because battery tech has been really heavily investigated forever. Batteries are known to be shit, and solutions to that problem have been investigated to the seas, like just endlessly.
The idea being, if we had cracked good batteries, everyone's house in Ireland, say, they wouldn't have roofs, they'd have solar panels.
Yeah.
And it would charge a big battery, and everyone would be off the grid, kind of thing.
Something like
along
that.
those lines,
that there would be grid level batteries on every grid in every country that has a grid. We have certainly not cracked batteries. We're in, day one of battery tech. So the likelihood of someone solving it in this short period of time, now that there's a shortage, extremely unlikely. If it does, tough shit Tesla, maybe. But I guess not.
I think Simon Andrusetti, a previous guest, mentioned a problem, or maybe it was a proposed problem with electric cars, was the disposal of said batteries. Is that an issue, or has that been flagged in the tech world?
The disposal and the manufacture of the batteries. The production, you were mentioning there about lithium, you're saying about it deep underground and stuff. It's not,
I don't know anything about it.
It's not the same as like oil, you're not drilling under the sea and stuff like that. It's in deposits and stuff, but it's a messy. It's I don't know if you've ever seen images of cobalt mines. They went or did the rounds, on the internet recently enough, because they're horrific places. Maybe some people are familiar with cobalt mines. They're the lithium mines, or whatever the hell they're called, pools or something, are similar. It's a messy, disgusting, kind of
environmentally friendly.
That's what I'm trying to go with this. Yeah, so not just the disposal, but the production of these batteries in the first place is very, very costly.
And what is lithium?
Lithium is it's on the...
Is it a metal? Is it a rock? Is it is it from organic material? Is it,
Well, lithium is a
Or base element.
That's what I was going to say. I had the word elementary particle in my mind, but no, an element. It's on the periodic table of elements.
Hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium.
Exactly.
So it's the third most abundant element in the universe. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that how they work? I know they're ordered in like atomic mass or something like that.
I think so.
Right, yeah. So it's lithium, Li, number 4 or number 3 by your estimation.
3, yeah. Hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, yeah.
Okay, so that's what lithium is. Lithium. Okay. So is it a rock? No. Is it organic? No.
No, it's a fundamental building block. Like it's not anything.
Yeah. Is it found in the rocks? Yeah, I'm sure it is, and they wash it out in some big, filthy, messy pool, and people get poisoned, and it's bad for the environment.
Yeah, when you get down to kind of separating things at a molecular level, and again, fucking chemistry is probably my least informed of the scientific disciplines. Like so, yeah. Listen, this is my battery wearing out here. So I think we're going to wrap it up with that. But listen, man, we've just done 3 hours and 10 minutes. So it's been an absolute pleasure. I won't be able to fucking sleep now tonight worrying about fucking AI, and I can't even think of fucking all the different things that we've talked about. Racist priests and porn and... Jesus, like I'll go in now and ourselves and say, what did you talk about? And I'm like, fuck off.
Do you know what we need to do? We need to check if the vote happened.
Yeah, fuck, we do too.
That's the only reason I'm here.
yeah, no, that was the original delay in you coming here. It was waiting for the proxy vote.
Well, look, I was procrastinating. I wanted to, disperse my responsibility, but look, here I am.
Yeah, no, an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Fuck, I hadn't thought of this. Usually I say to people, where can people kind of check you out? But the last couple of guests that I've had, they've kind of been, not personalities, but they've been people with kind of online presences. You don't really have one as such, or at all.
Yeah, I have my sweet YouTube channel.
Oh, you do? I can give you a plug.
No,
nice
you
one.
can't. No, you can't.
Why can't I?
Well, because it's full of copyright infringing material.
Yeah, but so?
Well, yeah, look, I mean, you can if you want.
But why wouldn't I?
No, there's no reason not to, but...
Yeah, so give yourself a plug. What's the YouTube channel called?
It's called Snippets, and it has snippets of cartoons.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So if you're fucking interested...
In snippets of cartoons.
But more specifically, give people, what's the hook?
Well, the hook is that it's, cuts the bullshit out of cartoons, and basically it's just the jokes or like funny one-liners. But some of them, look, it's just cuts of cartoons.
But no, it's the sound bites.
It's this, yeah.
You won't catch me, beer bar. Or no, I'll get you, beer bar. Oh no, you won't.
Except Simpsons and Fox are so cuntish about their copyright that they don't let you infringe on it.
Oh,
so
dear.
It's mostly South Park content.
Right, cool. So basically, all the fucking best bits out of South Park. So I've tried to look for that before, and I think I struggled. Now maybe I wasn't putting in snippets, but if some randomer puts
snippets.
in SNIPPETS into YouTube, what are they looking for? What's the symbol?
The symbol is a red bull being cut by like a pair of scissors.
Cut the bull.
Cut the bull, exactly.
Right. Okay. So type snippets into YouTube. Pull up Des's account. Give him a like and a subscription.
Send me
and
some sweet
fucking...
bat tokens.
Some what?
Some crypto.
Yeah, some crypto. You didn't get talking about cryptocurrency or anything.
Whatever.
We'll have you on again, man. There's cryptocurrency, there's South Park, there's you being a fucking engineer, there's an infinite amount of things that we've yet to talk to. But the battery power is just running out of me now, I have to say. So I'd be afraid I wouldn't do you justice, or I'd just start waffling shite more so than usual. So listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to having you on again.
Great, cheers.